My manager is forcing me to get Google reviews above anything else in my restaurant job, as they literally don't care about how I'm doing with customer service or anything else. They only care about Google reviews for the restaurant itself, and it's honestly driving me crazy, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I work at a restaurant in downtown Toronto, and I've done this for the past few years now, and let me tell you something. Today, I cried the whole night at home, thinking about how my manager told me that I couldn't even get a review from customers. These days, my manager has been pushing so hard for Google reviews. At our restaurant, there's a QR code on every table that if you scan it and give a review, you'll get a free drink or something like that. So today my manager texted me at around 2 o'clock and asked me if there were any customers in the restaurant. I was so confused when they asked me this, so I just said, yeah, there's customers. But she then said, well, how come there's no reviews in 3 hours? Now, I work alone in the morning time until about like 5 o'clock at night, and I have to do my preparation, I have to do the cashier role, and serving all by myself. Everyone who comes in eats off the lunch menu, which already includes a drink. So from my point of view, it's really hard to get a review, and I genuinely just don't like pushing the customers to write it. Granted, I always do my job. All of my regular customers constantly come back, and I've served them well in this industry for about 5 years now. Some customers love me and always come back, and I know their regular orders. They sit down, they eat, and then they leave. And they always see the QR code to give a review. Customers know that if they give a review, they get a free drink. They don't care to give that because the manager or bosses never see those things. Like, they don't see the side of the server at all. And they really think that we can just get reviews so easily just by asking. I really don't like begging for reviews because I feel like those are not real. And I also feel like I annoy the customers by asking for reviews. But I always try when I can, simply because I have to. So anyways, my manager said to me, well, when other people work in the morning, they get at least 5 reviews. How come you have 0? You have to get a minimum of that much. And after I saw that message, man, I felt like I was being compared to other employees. I feel like I'm back in high school and getting bullied in front of everybody. You might think I overreacted to it, but this is how I felt. And my manager didn't ask me privately to like talk about this, but instead they chose to mention my name and say in a group chat in front of everyone. In fact, after my shift, the night manager mentioned one of the employees by name and said, oh yeah, they did a great job getting all those reviews. And that message made me feel really sad since I felt like I got compared again. And it's like, why is the manager always having to mention it in front of everybody? And now every day I'm scared that I just can't get the reviews that I need. I feel so pressured and forced. And the way the manager is basically like forcing us and like comparing us in front of everybody and having this weird habit of like mentioning it in front of everyone makes me feel even worse. And now working isn't about working anymore. It's about aiming for the Google review. Like, I've even considered buying fake reviews just to get them off my back. Like, this is how much I get pressured and forced into this. Now, if you tell me to quit this job, listen, I know myself and I know how much I put into this job emotionally, and I did everything for my job for like 3 years. I feel very sad about how I'm getting treated just because I can't get stupid Google reviews. And also, the manager in this situation became the manager of the restaurant like a month ago, and my boss is probably forcing the manager to get reviews of the restaurant, while also using the incentive of money for all the reviews they get. Like, I'm pretty sure my manager is getting paid more for all the reviews that are happening on like our Google account. It all just feels so unfair. Like, I really just can't stop thinking about it, because right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be really mean and be really dishonest here, but dude, if you gotta game the system, then game the system. If your manager is pushing for at least 5 Google reviews per shift, well then congratulations, welcome to the world of AI, because I'm about to computer the crap out of this. Seriously, if my job was on the line where I have to meet some stupid metric that my boss is implementing, then you better believe I'm gonna meet that metric, and I would go through any means necessary to keep that job if it really meant that like, okay, they'll get off my back and I get these Google reviews and everybody's happy. And you can use your imagination, man, whether you're like getting your cousin to write 5 Google reviews a day or whatever, or you write a program or something like that. Like, there's gotta be some solution here that allows you to keep your job and get them off your back. So I don't know, man, get creative. Don't let this keep you down. You just want to do your job, dude. You just want to serve people food and have a good time. You want to enjoy your job. Like, you clearly have regulars that come in and enjoy themselves. So for your boss and the manager to be like, we need Google reviews, that's the only thing that matters. It's like, yeah, okay, well, customer service is like the backbone of this business. And if we can't do that basic function of it, then nothing else is going to work out. Oh, and by the way, you're stressing me out. So I'm just going to cheat. I'm 100% going to cheat the system so I get to keep my job. Like, I'm not going to lose food on my table and medicine in my cabinets just because you think these Google reviews are so important. Like, I would do whatever it takes to make sure that I'm still employed and I'm still happy and fed, because this is seriously annoying. Like, this is up there with working at GameStop and being like, do you want to sign up for our rewards program? Or working at like, I don't know, some clothing store and it's like, do you want to buy verify a credit card with us. And it's like, you don't want to say it, but you have to because it's some stupid corporate crap. Like, this is the exact same vein of that. It is so annoying. So hang in there, man. Like, don't let this get you down. If these people really want these precious Google reviews and they mean that much, then personally, if I was in your shoes, I would cheat. I would do whatever it takes to make sure I meet whatever quota they're trying to give me. And if that means you have to like start buying reviews, then screw it. Buy reviews. Who gives a crap? Because these people are focusing on the wrong things. Oh, and by the way, while you're looking for that, I am going to tell you to quit your job. I think you should find a different job than this crap. Like, this sounds miserable, dude. I would never want to work here. Can you imagine showing up to work every day and they're like, you're not doing enough. And yet all of the customers that come in are happy and like your regulars are really happy to see you and they ask for you specifically. It's like, dude, I'm doing my job, but this one part of it that you're clearly hyper focused on, oh, that's the most important part of my job. Nothing else counts apparently. Like, give me a break. That is so dumb. So yeah, dude, get a better job. These people suck. I would not stick around at this place. I'd start looking for a job yesterday and like absolutely dump this place to the curb as soon as I get one, because what you're describing sounds like a nightmare and I would hate to work there. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not letting my sister's boyfriend attend my wedding, as they've literally only been dating for like a month and I'm pretty sure they're just gonna break up just like the last guy? Because after we said no, a lot of people are starting to make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. And at this point, I don't know what to do about this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my soon-to-be wife and I are getting married at the end of June, and for the sake of the story, we'll just call her Tina. We've already gone through finding the venue, we've gotten catering, flowers, invitations, a band, etc., and everything's being paid for and ready for the big day. And honestly, we wanted a relatively small wedding. Our guest list started at around 50 people, and it's now up to 67 people, including children, with some people who still haven't confirmed if they're going or not. If everybody who was invited ends up showing up, then it'll be about 72 people in total. But I don't think everyone will show up, as this happens at most weddings. Now, this is where the drama really starts. My sister, who I will call Melinda, asked if she could bring her new boyfriend of 1 month, who I will call Donnie, to the wedding. For reference, Melinda's 19 and Donnie is 20. And just for a bit of background, Melinda is the baby of the family and almost always gets her way. She's very spoiled and generally unaware of what the world is really like. She can always count on our parents to have her back and cater to her needs. She's very sweet and puts on the baby voice to act like she isn't as smart as she actually is. She lacks common sense and can be very selfish at times. I still love her very much, but my parents did and still do treat her better than me. My parents are good parents. However, they do display blatant acts of favoritism towards other siblings. In fact, I'm often excluded from family excursions, and I feel like I can't talk to my parents because they just get upset and start acting like, oh, I guess I'm just the horrible mother trope. They can be very manipulative and see no wrongdoing on their parts. And I don't really fault Melinda for this because my parents did it with their parenting. Anyways, Tina and I said her boyfriend could not come due to the catering being paid off, which it is, and it would cost us more money just to add him in. We also don't want someone who has no connection to us and who most likely won't be in our lives 6 months from now at our wedding. She was single when we sent out our invitations months ago, and she never had a +1 because she didn't need one. And guess what? She didn't ask for one either. Melinda's also a bridesmaid, so she would be busy getting ready and wouldn't be able to sit with or even be with her boyfriend until the reception. So he would essentially just be there by himself for over half the day. So basically, we don't really know him, as they literally just got together. Like, I'm not even sure if he knows our names. I understand they could be together forever, but I just feel like the relationship is just way too new. And I don't see a reason why we need him to like see me and Tina commit to each other under God when he doesn't even know us or our families. Every important event Melinda attends, she always brings different people with her, and it's always with people she's no longer friends with or in a relationship with. She also got asked to prom at my proposal by her old boyfriend. They didn't even go to prom together, and guess what? They ended up breaking up. And this guy's even in some of her graduation photos. So to cut to it, we basically told her, no, he can't come along. And she did sound sad, but she said okay. And my God, I thought that was the end of it, but holy crap. Fast forward and it's a complete mess. My dad sent me a text message saying, Donnie was coming to the wedding because we wouldn't have that many people there on our side, and there's no reason why he can't come. Now, this really upset me because they were telling us what was going to happen at our wedding. I will also add that my parents did give us some money and we used it towards the catering, and it paid for most of the food, but not all of it. We still had to pay for the extra people, and any extra people that we added will be out of our pockets. And just to add in, because it's fair, Tina's family also helped out financially. We asked for no help from either side of our families, and everything we received was offered. We still paid for like over 3/4 of the wedding by ourselves. Anyways, after I received this text message, I called my parents and I expressed to them that, hey, I don't want to argue, but they immediately started demanding that we let Donnie attend the wedding just so Melinda would have someone to be there with her because she would be bored at the wedding. Well, I then explained why, and I just straight up said no. But that soon turned into an argument to where they called me and my soon-to-be wife selfish. They told us that we didn't know how weddings worked and that my sister would be sad if Donnie couldn't come. But I said to them, she hasn't even been with him that long. Like, what if they break up? He'll now be in my wedding photos. It then got to the point where they said they weren't coming to the wedding and essentially started giving me an ultimatum. But at the end of it, I just refused and ended the call with them. My parents then went on to tell the rest of the family about this, and now they're really telling me to just let this guy show up to our wedding. That way I don't regret my parents not being there. My aunt and my brother are on my side, and I think my parents will regret missing this event later on, but I'm always being the bigger person in situations like this, and I'm tired of it. Seriously, this is my wedding, and I think I should choose who I celebrate with. I want to find a way to just end this because I don't want the drama to distract from our wedding, and I do want my parents there, but at the same time, they're acting like this, and I really believe that my wishes and opinions are just being completely ignored. So seriously, are we really the jerks for not wanting this nobody boyfriend showing up to our wedding? Because I don't really know what to do anymore, and I'm seriously pissed off. Oh my gosh, your parents are weird. They clearly spoil the crap out of Melinda, and this is obviously showing right now. For them to be like, oh, you need to let Donnie in, otherwise we're not showing up. Like, dude, that is some crazy behavior. I don't care who you are. And it's also especially alarming that they're really trying to sit there and like defend this situation. Because dude, Melinda's done this before, man. She's done this at graduation photos and God knows how many other events. It's like she gets a new boyfriend or a friend and is like, oh yeah, come to this special event, it'll be good. And then she breaks up 3 months later. It's like, dude, this is honestly stupid. In my opinion, I think you're completely justified by saying, no, he's not showing up, because honestly, I agree with that. But if for some reason you cave or you give in because you're like, okay, I want my parents to be there, I just have to let this happen, then I think you should definitely take 2 sets of photos, one with Donnie in them and one without it. That way you can guarantee that you've got some good photos that don't have that idiot in it, because you don't know if he's gonna stick around. So yeah, you're not the jerk at all. This is stupid. Anyone trying to be like, oh, Donnie needs to show up or we're not gonna be there, those people are making a terrible decision, and that is absolutely not your fault. Am I the jerk for buying a house with my friends rather than renting in perpetuity, just so I could instead live with my girlfriend? Because the way it's set up right now, my girlfriend could not move in with me even if she wanted to. And at this point, I feel like I might have made a mistake here and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so me and all of my friends are 22 years old and we graduated a little over a year ago. I spent about a year as like a research assistant to a storm chaser who was wandering all over the American Midwest and most of the Deep South. The job ended and I ended up having another one lined up. I had about 80 grand in the bank from previous savings from summer days working as a lifeguard or when I had a dog walking empire that I built when I was a teenager. Plus the research assistant gig on top of that definitely added up. A few of my buddies had very similar savings, but none of us could afford a house individually. But together we could swing a $400,000 property. This was a place with some land by the river that was set up as a rental with 6 apartments essentially modulated from different parts of the property. This place already had like paid for solar panels, as well as a few small windmills and a water well, so any kind of utility bill was non-existent. So we got a lawyer involved, and the house has to be sold in 7 years, unless me and pretty much everybody else agreed unanimously to keep the property. The house is in a trust, and a contract has been written regulating approved uses of the property. And there's an important fact here. No girlfriends or wives can move in, and no one's permitted to start a family and live on the property, or else they forfeit their stake in the house. And this is just a precaution so that none of our girlfriends try to move in and pull, well, I live here too kind of crap, and try to suddenly take over the place. And obviously, no offense to any women reading this was just our way of avoiding a girl trying to kick everybody out of the property so she and one of my buddies can like set up a family home or some crap like that. It is a blunt but necessary measure given how my one friend's girlfriend currently is acting. You give the girl an inch and my god, she will try to take over all of Central Europe like Napoleon in his first round of conquest. We also have like this mandatory meeting amongst all of us once a a quarter to address any issues with maintenance and things for the property. Now, with all that out of the way, I need to say that my girlfriend is pissed that I did not ask her to move in with me. So seriously, with all that in mind, am I really the jerk for this? I mean, I now own property that is a 15-minute walk from work, and I got a main floor of the house of a nice private 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment set up so that we have like land river access with a dock for fishing and boating. And I've got access to the sidewalk to walk to work if I really don't want to like spend money on gas. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk at all for like setting this up and getting a house with your friends. Like, totally go for it. It really seems like you guys know what you're doing and you know what you want out of this. But in my opinion, I think it was really stupid to be like, oh yeah, and none of our girlfriends can move in. No wives or anybody. That is not allowed. Like, holy crap, you guys are pigeonholing yourself for the next 7 years. Like, what are we talking about right now? Because this literally is the result of it. The girlfriend is probably like, wait, you bought a house, but I can't live with you? Like, what are we doing? And sure, you can still obviously make it work. Like, you don't have to live together, but it sounds like this was kind of an expectation between the two of you, and now your girlfriend's like, wait a second, I'm kind of left high and dry, which in my opinion makes sense. Like, I can completely understand where she's coming from. On the other hand, though, when you've got people like this one friend's girlfriend who's like, oh, I'm gonna take all of it, it kind of makes me believe like, yeah, this was probably a good idea specifically for this one guy, but it also kind of screws everybody else over. So no, you're not inherently like the jerk for doing this, but I think there are consequences to making this decision. And unfortunately, if it means your girlfriend's pissed off, then that's just something you're gonna have to live with. Am I the jerk for not wanting to help my friend after she literally let her kid mess up all the hard work I had done in her house? Because after I had spent literally 3 hours cleaning and vacuuming and just really tidying up her place, her stupid toddler destroyed all that hard work in seconds. And now I'm really pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I have a friend who's struggling with a messy house. She asked me to come over to help her clean, and I did. And I have several times now. But this time I cleaned her 2.5-year-old's room. It was quite bad, but I spent about 3 hours organizing the toys, the books, and folding clothes and all this other stuff. And my God, it was a lot of work, but I managed to get it mostly clean and was about to vacuum the floor and put some piles of folded clothes away in a bin when she suddenly came in with a 2.5-year-old. She then let her toddler help by picking up the piles and dumping them on the ground. So literally an hour of folding was gone in seconds. Then she let her dump all the toys and then decided she wanted to clean the closet, so she took everything out. I attempted to gently redirect the toddler, but there's not much I can do when the mom is right there finding it funny. Now look, I totally get that 2-year-olds can make a mess really quickly. I have 2 kids of my own who are a little bit older now, ages 11 and 13, and I work with preschoolers. But because of that, I also know that I would never let my kids destroy somebody's work that they had just did for me and then laugh about it. I would have redirected to another activity, and if that didn't work, I'd have picked them up and removed them from the room and redirected again in another room and empathized with whatever meltdown, at least until the clothes were picked up. The room looked not quite as bad as when I started because I'd gotten all the trash and junk out, but seriously, it was not a ton better. And this is all after 3 hours of cleaning when I should have been home studying. It's also important to note that she literally asked me to help her clean all the time. Her house is quite bad, and it's not entirely on her because she moved into a house from her in-laws with a ton of stuff already in it. I would like to be able to help her, but at the same time, I don't want to, especially if she's just gonna let it all be undone in seconds. And I admit, there is a side of this that I do feel like she's just generally permissive in parenting. An example being that she called me last night asking me to stop studying for my finals in a few days just so I would drive over to sit in the car with her kid in her driveway because she was refusing to get out of the car and my friend needed to go inside to use the restroom. Apparently, it had already been half an hour, but I told her, look, you just need to take her inside. The toddler doesn't need to be happy about it, but she insisted that she could not because she's just rebuckling herself. I then just told her straight up, no, I can't come over, and when I did that, she was annoyed. I could be absolutely overreacting here because I'm already annoyed, but seriously, am I really the jerk here? Am I in the wrong for being pissed off at this? Because I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, it's time to cut the cord, dude. It's time to take a step back, really take a deep breath, and realize that your friend's using you. She's like, oh yeah, can you help me clean up? Oh, by the way, my kid's gonna destroy your hard work. See ya. Thanks a lot. Isn't that funny? That's so funny what they're doing. It's like, no, dude, this is not funny at all. You're a terrible parent and you don't know how to be a parent. Like, I'm willing to bet the only reason she has you coming over there is because you work with preschoolers. And you're actually someone who knows how to handle kids and she doesn't. Like, seriously, you really can't can't get your kid out of the car seat and bring him inside? Like, bro, snatch him up and bring him inside. They're gonna be pissed, but who cares? It's a toddler. They're gonna be pissed no matter what when they don't get their way. Like, what are we talking about? And honestly, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I totally understand. Raising kids is hard. It's never easy and it's very frustrating. But if you're gonna sit in the car and be like, oh my God, my kid's not letting me go inside. It's like, no, dude, you're the one that's not letting yourself go inside. Like, this is really easily solved. You just don't want to do it. So no, you're not the jerk, dude. I would probably stop helping this friend altogether because they're not acting like a friend. If anything, they want you to become the parent in this situation because they clearly can't handle it. And that sounds obnoxious and I would never want that. My fiance keeps joking about calling off the wedding, and not only do I find it not funny anymore, but I'm also starting to get worried that he seriously doesn't want to get married, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my fiance and I have been together for 5 years, and we've been engaged for 1. Our wedding is scheduled for early next year, and lately, he's been making jokes repeatedly about how there's still time left for us to back out and how he's still shopping around. He says it in a lighthearted tone, often around friends or family, but it's been happening more often and even in private. At first, I brushed it off as nerves or just bad humor, but now it's honestly starting to hurt. When I told him that it makes me uncomfortable and I would appreciate it if he stopped, he just laughed and said I was being too sensitive and that he was obviously joking. But it doesn't feel like a joke to me anymore. It feels dismissive and a bit cruel. We've never really had issues communicating before, but I feel like every time I bring this up, he shuts it down or makes me feel like I'm the one being unreasonable. Now, I love him and I do want to marry him, but this behavior is making me question things that I've never questioned before. So am I overreacting about this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, you absolutely need to have some kind of conversation with him, or at least further the conversation and be like, no, this is bad and I don't want you to do this. Because yeah, this guy seriously sounds like he just doesn't want to get married. And that's really stupid. Like if he does feel that way, then it's time to call it off. Because neither you nor anybody else in your life should have to go through like setting something up just for it to fall apart at the last second. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't think this guy wants to get married. I think he's trying to like bring this up and test the waters and try to be like, okay, maybe we could still back out. You know what I mean? You feel that way too? No, it's just me. Oh, okay. Like why else would he bring this up all the time in front of family and friends and everybody else, and also in private? Like at that point, it's not a joke and it's really how he feels. So yeah, this guy just doesn't sound like he's committed, and it seems like he doesn't want to get married and he just doesn't know how to talk about it. And that is absolutely something that needs to be figured out sooner than later, because this would be a nightmare to deal with after the marriage, and I just don't think you deserve that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My family and my fiance absolutely hate each other, and after watching things go down, I'm honestly not sure what to do or how to rekindle relationships on both sides. Here's what's going on. So I've been dating my boyfriend for 3 years, and we just got engaged a day ago while on vacation. In the beginning, my family liked him and everyone got along great. Fast forward, and my mom and stepdad ended up getting divorced because my mom was cheating on him. This put a huge strain on my relationship with my mother, and I knew that the guy she was cheating with is a complete loser. So I was upset that for the second time now, my family had been ripped away. After that, my mom was on the decline, dealing with substances and having no job. She's always had a pill problem, but it was definitely worse and still is. Anyways, the point is that things have just gotten really weird with my mom since then, and my fiance really got to see the darkness that was going on, which made him not very keen of my mom. My brother also deals with addiction, and my fiance is very hard on my brother and basically thinks that he's a loser, and to be completely honest, he is. My fiance got into it with my brother one night at our house because he was talking craziness to my mom, so my fiance stood up for my mom, telling my brother to not talk to my mom like that. Well, it ends up being a huge fight and they leave, and my fiance wants nothing to do with him, which is understandable and the feeling is mutual. Now, me and my fiance have obviously had our ups and downs. Honestly, our relationship got super rocky not that long ago, and I was venting to my mom just about everything, and I probably said some things that should have been kept private. One night, we had gotten into a huge fight, and I left and I went to my mom's. I ended up checking his phone a few weeks later, and yes, I know this isn't okay, and that's when I found out he had messaged a girl that he went to high school with. There wasn't much to it, and there wasn't even really any flirting, just asking about work and animals. I told my mom about this, but he doesn't know that I told her. There's also been some other issues that were vented about, and now that she hates him, she just uses it as ammo. My fiance and I have since spoken about things and what needs to be changed in order for us to be together, and we both have done great at making these changes because we love each other and we want to be together. I did tell my mom about the conversations and the changes that need to be made. When I texted and told her about the engagement, she was pissed off and said she wanted to have a conversation when I got home. home. I get her wanting what's best for me, but it is my life and my relationship, and I think she should just be happy if I'm happy. So seriously, what do you think? Am I really in the wrong for like venting to my mom, or does she have a point about being upset with him? Because right now I don't know what to do. Man, this sounds like a tricky one because it seems like you already turned your mom against like your fiance. And sure, she's not a great person based on what she's done, but it doesn't seem like you've done any favors for your fiance at all. Like this just overall seems like a messy relationship across the board, and I'm just not sure if this is like a right fit for anybody. So hopefully this works out in some kind of way if it is meant to work out, because this really does sound like a sketchy situation for you and for your future husband. My entitled coworkers give off a double standard that in my opinion was completely unacceptable. So I decided to get some petty revenge by shutting them down in a way they were not expecting. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've recently accepted a promotion at work, and with it came much more responsibilities, as well as including me as being a system administrator of basically everything at our office. Now at our office there's two entrances from the lobby, but we only ever use one of them since the other door opens directly into a seating area where a department of mostly middle-aged women work. Another plus of primarily only using one door is that everyone gets to greet each other good morning. Now these otherwise kind ladies have complained every single time someone has used the door by them to upper management, as well as through teams, and they don't seem to differentiate between who does it. Whoever uses that door won't be spared from their wrath. Their reasoning among other things have been that it creates a draft and that it's just annoying. They even started taping paper to the door saying don't use this door, and even tried to block it with tables or big plants, but have always been told off because it is an escape route in case of a fire and other kind of emergencies where you need the door open. I've heard them bad-mouthing some of the new people as well because they tried using the door until they read the taped paper on the door. Then one day I had to help a contractor move something really heavy out from the office, and I told them I'd have to use that door. Well, they started complaining and said we had to use the other door, and while I agreed with that, I told them that we weren't going to, and that management had suggested we use their door as it's closer and wider, making the whole process much more effortless. Since then, they've been giving me the side eye, and I know from other sources that they've been talking smack about me. I don't really care about those things, it's a waste of time and energy, and I haven't changed my behavior towards them. I'll still greet them with a smile and help them whenever they need it, while making small talk and just showing the same interest in them as the rest of the office. Then one day I happened to come into work before any of them, and as I was walking with my fresh cup of coffee towards my office, I see one of them enter through said door. I then grin to myself and continue walking, only to see that yet another one enters right afterwards. It turns out that door is prohibited from being used by anyone but them. Well, I now control what our key fobs can unlock, and after seeing them acting out this double standard of theirs, I asked upper management if it wouldn't be easier to just remove the ability for anyone to actually use our key fobs on that door entirely so that we could avoid their complaints. And you know what? They agreed to do so. I then went to them to inform them that they wouldn't have to worry about anyone else using that door any longer, and that I hope they'd appreciate what I've done to help them mitigate this source of irritation and frustration. Now, I actually get to say good morning to them every day I show up earlier than them because they have to walk right past my office just to get to their seating area. And honestly, it feels good to get this petty revenge because they were being completely obnoxious. Yeah, this is really stupid. Like seriously, they made this big fuss about the doors only to then turn around and be like, okay, we're gonna use those doors, but no one else can. Like that's just super entitled and really obnoxious. So good for you for shoving that right back in their face because they definitely deserve that. My sister is furious with me after I refused to take a taxi just to appeal to her overweight husband, saying that I should have taken a taxi for our walking tour in China, despite the fact that I was taking my kids to see their homeland. And now they're saying that I was being inconsiderate to my brother-in-law, despite the fact that I warned him several times that we would be walking a lot during this trip. And at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 39-year-old male, and I recently went to China with my sister, her husband, who we will call Doug, their 12-year-old son, my wife, and our two kids, ages 11 and 9. My sister and I were born in China, but our family immigrated to Dallas when we were young. She stayed there, got married, and had her son, while I settled in the Pacific Northwest with my wife and two gremlins of our own. Growing up, our parents emphasized healthy eating and staying active. My sister and I still live that way and pass it on to our kids, but Doug, however, is American in every sense of that word. He grew up on ultra-processed foods, and he will insist on starting up his Grand Wagoneer for any distance more than 3 blocks. He's not completely immobile, but definitely not built for long treks. Their son just finished 7th grade and loved the ancient China unit, especially the terracotta warriors. My sister thought this was the perfect time for him, being half Chinese, to visit his ancestral homeland. I was already planning a trip to see my family, so we added my sister's family to the itinerary and expanded it to include places like Beijing and other cities to match what their son had learned in school. school. I handled most of the planning and tried to hint that a lot of walking would be involved, especially since many Chinese cities have vast transit systems, and they are less car dependent. But here's the thing, Doug didn't take it seriously. Once we arrived, it was clear that he couldn't keep up when we were exploring the landmarks. My sister often stayed behind with him, while my wife and I continued with the kids to ensure we kept up with our tour groups. It all came to a head in our final stop, my grandmother's hometown. This place was basically vertical, stairs and steep slopes everywhere. On a particular hot and humid day, I took the kids to the local market via a park our old family helped build. Now, Doug insisted on coming, saying he didn't want to sit around all day, and I warned him it was a long walk, but he still insisted. Well, half a mile in, he was struggling. I slowed down, but the kids kept running ahead. After we got through the park, I convinced him to take a taxi back while I continued to the market with the kids. When we returned, Doug was sulking with my sister and was very upset. She said I was inconsiderate for not just taking a taxi to the market. I explained that would have taken longer given the layout, and the kids would not have seen the park that was part of our family's history. She said she hadn't realized how physically demanding the trip would be since she let me handle most of the planning and didn't really consider Doug's limits. And sure, I agree. I could have been more considerate of Doug's cardio, but not at the expense of my nephew and the kids experiencing their cultural landmarks, especially since it was my nephew's first time in his homeland, as well as my kids' first time seeing several major cities in China. They all said they had an amazing time and they had a really good educational experience. So, am I the jerk for not slowing down for my fat American brother-in-law? Because right now I'm being called a jerk and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk because this is insane. Doug clearly sounds like he's super overweight and not in any good shape in the slightest. So the fact that he was trying to be like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'll come along, only to then hold you up and then get chewed out by your sister, like that's just obnoxious. This really does seem like the elephant in the room that no one wants to mention. Like the guy's clearly not meant to walk around long distances all the time because he's obviously out of shape and just completely sluggish. And seriously, how is that your fault or your kid's fault? They're just here trying to experience the sights. And this guy's holding him up and being like, wait a second, I can't keep up. And you tried to warn him. You tried to be like, listen, there's a lot of slopes and there's a lot of steps. Are you sure you want to do this? And it's like, dude, you gave him plenty of warning. If he still came along and still held you up, well then guess what? That's his problem and not yours. So no, you're not the jerk here. Your brother-in-law was completely idiotic for thinking he could do this, especially since he's not in shape or even built to handle this kind of terrain. An entitled customer snaps at me on the last day of my job, and since I knew this guy was a well-known regular who was a jerk to literally everybody, I decided to get some petty revenge by deciding to make his project he was working on entirely impossible to complete, making me feel satisfied that I got back at this guy right before I quit my job. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old male and I worked in the flooring department for 6 years at a large Midwest hardware store where you save big money. Part of my job was to cut carpet for customers, and it would come in 12 foot wide by however long they wanted it. And trust me, this will be important later on. After 6 years of working for this company in the flooring department, I had seen well over a dozen managers come through the department and a fair share of part-time workers. In April of this year, I finally landed a position at a new company that allowed me to use my graphic design degree. So I put in my 2 weeks notice. I had finally reached the last day of my job and I was counting down the minutes when a man walks past me and snaps his fingers at me. He says to me, "Give me a carpet right now." And then after that, he walks right over to the carpet machine. Now this guy, let's call him Jared, is a known jerk to myself and coworkers and a landlord for many of the apartments in the area. I was secretly praying he would come in so I could finally have my customer service revenge moment, and my prayers were answered because he wanted new carpet for his entire apartment complex. Now, any other day, I would have hated helping with this because him being the scum lord that he is, chooses the cheapest carpet we sell and then proceeds to buy 10 to 20 cuts of that carpet. But today was different because I had a dream and I was going to do everything I can to make my dream come true. So Jared waits impatiently for me to bring the cheap carpet around, all while talking down to me about how much money he makes as a scumlord and how he's evicted a few families because he didn't like their kids, all just fuel for my revenge. Finally, he finds a huge roll of cheap carpet and he wants a little over a dozen cuts of carpet, all of them ranging between 12 feet by 9 feet, all the way to 12 feet by 13 feet. I tell him to go wait by the registers and I'll have it up there as soon as I can. And truly, I did cut it as fast as I could, but I rolled them loosely so they were all roughly the same size diameter. I then proceeded to roll the cart full of carpets up to the front for him and even loaded it into his trailer with no tip, of course. But what was going to be his weekend project with his buddies is actually going to take a few weeks because I didn't label any of the rolls of carpet, so he has no way of telling how long each roll of carpet really is. He has a trailer full of 12-foot rolls of carpet that he has to now unroll in order to know what room it needs to go to. And if you've never wrangled carpets before, it is not easy to bring a loosely rolled piece of carpet up a flight of stairs, let alone a dozen of them. And honestly, this is the least I can do for this guy because he truly is a massive jerk. I love this so much because it's so subtle. By not labeling anything, you're giving this guy a massive headache moving forward. Because guess what? He's still got his product, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a nightmare figuring out which carpet goes where. And if this is a massive apartment complex, then my God, this guy has got his work cut out for him. So good for you for getting some revenge. This guy sounds like a jerk, especially with him being like, oh yeah, give me a carpet right now. And in my opinion, I think he deserves it because he just does not sound like a good person. An entitled family brought their toddler to our museum who was literally squeaking their shoes on purpose throughout the entire museum, making a lot of noise in the process. But once we told them to please quiet down and to try and keep things at a low volume, this entitled Karen leaves the worst Google review I've ever seen in my life. That not only was factually incorrect, but also made me laugh incredibly hard. Here's what went down. I work in an art museum and it's a pretty relaxed one compared to most. No rigid dress code, a wide variety of art, a children's art making space, friendly and understanding staff, etc. About a week ago, a group of 2 families, 6 people in total, came to the museum, and the child with the squeaky shoes in question was at this point in her stroller. And by the way, I want to note that the squeaking was absolutely on purpose, and this will be important later on. They check in just fine and head into the galleries like normal, and then the squeaking suddenly starts. She was holding a plushie, and I had assumed that that's where the squeaking came from. It wasn't until later that I realized it was her shoes. The staff does our best to just bear with it since no guests have complained, but the sound carries very well here, so we are getting incredibly tired of it after about 5 minutes. After we grow tired of the squeaking, I'd asked if it was possible to have her stop squeaking, assuming that they could just take the plush away for their visit, but instead the following conversation ensues. A woman from the group, not the child's mother, but we'll just call this woman Karen, said to me, "It's a museum, it doesn't have to be silent." But I say to her, "You're right, I don't expect library silence. This is just very loud and sound travels well in the museum, and it can be difficult to focus on the art with a loud and repetitive noise." The Karen says to me, "Well, there aren't that many people in here anyways." And for reference, there were at least 10 other people in the gallery with her. Not to mention it's disrespectful to disregard how the staff feels. I say to her, "Okay, well, we'll do our part to put up with it as best as we can, but if guest starts complaining, it kind of becomes a different thing." I then walk away and they thankfully put the kid back in the stroller for a bit, but they did let the kid start squeaking around again like 15 minutes later though. Now all that's to say that no guests complain, which I'm really thankful for, but bear in mind, this is the same thing we'd ask if anyone was talking loudly on their phone, or if they were playing music without headphones. Well, fast forward to today, and we saw that she left us quite a long Google review, which I will copy and paste here with the museum's name censored. She said the following: "If you want a masterclass in how to alienate families, discourage young art lovers, and uphold an utterly joyless approach to culture, just go to this museum. The low point of our visit by far was when a staff member asked us to remove our 1-year-old daughter's shoes because they had built-in squeakers. Yes, squeakers. The kind of cheerful sound that delights children and helps them feel secure as they explore the world. She wears them, by the way, because she has sensory issues. The squeaks provide feedback and comfort while walking in unfamiliar spaces." She then goes on and on about how this toddler was just enjoying herself and that this was somehow a greater threat to the sanctity of the art than, according to her, the complete absence of quality in our exhibits. They then compared us to a few museums and said, "Oh, this place is just ridiculous," but it's like, okay, what are you talking about? She ends up by saying that this museum doesn't celebrate art, and instead she says that it gatekeeps it, and in doing so, she says it fails its audience completely. And honestly, this lady could not have been more wrong. I love hearing people talk in the galleries and the occasional outbursts of excitement over a piece of artwork that someone's excited about, like that's my favorite things. But someone making noise just for the sake of making noise is not. With all that being said, I got a really good laugh out of this review because this entitled Karen would never be happy truly under the best of circumstances. Oh man, this is so obnoxious. The Karen in this story knows for a fact that that kid was making that noise on purpose, and instead of doing something about it, they just said, "No, we want to be disruptive. That's our right, and if you don't allow us, then guess what? You're gatekeeping art." Like, what a stupid review. Like, that's completely ignorant. So yeah, this Karen was completely out of line, and I don't blame you for getting a good laugh out of this, because seriously, her rationale was completely skewed. My entitled cousin literally doesn't lift a finger after we allow her to move into our house since her mom rejected bringing her back into hers. But now that we're kicking her out, my aunt is stepping in and freaking out on my mom, saying that we're terrible people for kicking her out, even though my cousin has been a lazy piece of garbage since the second she moved into our house. Here's what's going on. Okay, so a few months back, my cousin, who we will call Erica, got out of a rough relationship. She was 19 and had nowhere to go, and her mom, who is incredibly entitled, wouldn't take her back in. Well, my mom, being the big-hearted person that she is, let Erica move in with us. The only deal was that Erica would help keep the kitchen clean, no rent or anything else like that, which was a pretty chill setup. She even had a pit bull with her, and my mom bought stuff for the dog: a crate, some leashes, a harness, and a big bag of dog food. At first, everything seemed cool. Erica helped out a little and things were okay, but after a couple of months, stuff went sideways. She was diagnosed with MS, which obviously was rough, but she also started getting into arguments with my stepdad, who, as a point of note, is a disabled vet. Then random friends of hers started coming over all the time and just treating the place like a hangout spot. On top of that, Erica barely stayed at the house. She would be gone for days, leaving her dog locked up in the cage with no food or water, no walks or anything like that. And my mom ended up asking me to take care of it because the poor dog was suffering. Fast forward a little bit more, and my mom goes into Erica's closet to grab some toilet paper, and she finds an absolute disaster. We're talking nasty clothing soaked in urine, plates of old food, some dog poop, and gross cups full of chewing tobacco. The room was trashed. Plus, on top of that, she still wasn't taking care of the dog. After all that, my mom had had enough and told her that she had to go. And that's when Erica's mom jumped in and completely lost it. She called my mom all kinds of names and said that my stepdad should have just passed away already, despite the fact that he's gone through so many heartaches. It turns out that Erica told her mom that we were treating her like a slave and making her wait on my stepdad all the time, which literally couldn't be further from the truth. She barely lifted a finger while she was with us. My mom said that she wouldn't be surprised if Erica's mom tried to call the cops on us or social services, just out of spite. It wouldn't be the first time. I mean, she's taken advantage of my mom before, like borrowing her car for days and leaving my mom stuck at home with nothing. In the end, we tried to help Erica when no one else would. And you know what? It totally backfired. And I know for a fact my mom won't be doing that again anytime soon. Wow, Erica literally just took advantage of you and your family. Like, that really sucks. And for her mom to step in and be like, wow, I can't believe you did this. And it's like, what are you talking about? You're the one that refused to take your kid in, leaving us no choice but to help out. And I think any reasonable person would be like, sure, I'll help you out. Your family after all, this should work out, right? Well, apparently no. It looks like Erica's just a complete piece of garbage and she took advantage of everything your family gave her. And that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. My entitled friend demands that I cancel my kid's birthday party just to attend hers, saying that her kid's birthday party was way more important than mine. But now that the dust is settled, my friend is no longer talking to me, still clearly pissed off that I didn't cancel everything that I planned just to show up to a birthday party for her 2-year-old. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my two friends have been a trio ever since middle school, and ironically enough, all three of our oldest children have the exact same birthday but different years. Me and my friend, who I will call Tanya, have boys that are ages 8 and 10, and my other friend, who we will call Lauren, has a 2-year-old daughter. A few months ago, Tanya and I decided to plan a bowling and laser tag birthday party for our boys. We told Lauren about the party and we invited her, and she said she would try to make it. Now, the party was on the weekend and not the day of their actual birthday. Well, a few days before the party, Lauren FaceTimed Tanya and I to invite us to her daughter's birthday party, and it was on the same day as our boys' party. Now, truly, this is no big deal. It's the weekend after their birthday, so we knew the parties would eventually clash. Now, we told her that we wouldn't be able to make it, and we thought that was that. But the day after the party, Tanya and I FaceTimed Lauren to ask her how her daughter's party went. We saw pictures online and thought the decorations came out beautifully. I mean, we were all ears just waiting on the details of the baby girl's second birthday, but instead we were met with anger. Lauren starts asking why we didn't show up, and it's like, are you serious? We were at our boys' party and she absolutely knew this. She then tells us that we were supposed to cancel their party and come to her daughter's. When I asked her why she would think we would ever even consider doing that, she said that a second birthday party was more important than an 8 and 10-year-old's party, and that we should have just picked a different day. Now, I'm not one to argue, so I just tell Lauren that she's tripping and I hang up the video call. The next day, I noticed she logged me out and changed the passwords to a streaming account that we shared. And it's like, are we being serious right now? Because I guess to her, it really was that serious. Now, I haven't talked to Lauren ever since then, but I can't help consider the fact that maybe I did something wrong here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is probably the most self-centered person I've ever seen in my life. Not only did she expect you to show up to this stupid birthday party for a 2-year-old, who by the way is not even gonna remember that birthday party, but she also psychically just expected you to cancel your party and come to hers. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Why not just bring your stupid 2-year-old over to this party and everybody gets to be happy? In fact, you don't even have to like plan for decorations. The 2-year-old is not gonna remember their party, but the 8 and 10-year-old, yeah, they're absolutely gonna remember that. So the fact that Lauren would blow up her friendship all because of like you and Tanya not going to her party is insane. That is another level of selfishness I've never seen in my life, and there's no reason for you to feel bad at all. She is being being so selfish and entitled, it honestly is ridiculous. So no, you're not at fault here. You definitely didn't do anything wrong. And the fact that she expected this out of you is completely insane in my opinion. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my friend back for her package that was delivered to me without my knowledge? Because after I had to pay $50 just to collect it, I decided to keep some of the items in it as I didn't know it was hers. And now this has caused a massive argument and a lot of drama, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friend and I are currently having an argument over the stupidest thing ever. For some context, I order things online a lot, and recently I ordered a few things from a popular brand. Now, my packages were split up, so what I ordered could have come on 2 separate days, which I didn't mind. I picked up the first package, and a week or so later, I kept seeing notifications in my email about a package pop up. And mind you, this has a completely different tracking number than either of my split up packages. I checked my bank account to see if maybe I had ordered something and I didn't remember, but that wasn't the case. So I brushed it off and I ignored it. A few days later, the mystery package and my original package came up as delivered. So I went and collect both of them since they were both addressed to me. And for the mystery package, I paid $50 to clear it. Well, as soon as I got home, I dug through this package since I had paid a good buck to collect it, and I was curious and I thought the company gifted me free items since I shop on their site quite often. There were slippers, shorts, dresses, and a few other things in the package, all of which I had never personally ordered, but they were good picks. I gave away one of the dresses and I'm currently wearing one of the shorts while typing this. Now, on to the actual tea. My friend sent me a message today asking if I had received a package recently, and I said yes, and obviously started telling her about all the freebies I got. She then asked what exactly I got, and when I told her, she said it wasn't free, but instead it was supposed to be hers. Now, how is this, you might be wondering? Well, she placed an order from the same site I buy from and put my address in it to have it delivered to me. Now, did she ever tell me about this before today? No, of course not. Am I shocked and low-key kind of upset? Yeah, kind of, because why wouldn't she just tell me about that? I then told her that I took 2 of the items since I initially thought it was mine, and that she could have the rest of her stuff if she really wanted to. Now, what's the cause of this argument? She said that I would have to pay her back for the 2 items that I took, but I refused because I had to pay $50 to collect it, and my other friend works close to where she lives, so she would get free delivery too. She then called me a selfish jerk and has been telling our mutual friends and my mom about what happened. She's been saying that I stole from her and refused to pay her back. My mom's saying I should pay her to keep the peace, while my friends are all split on the situation. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to pay back my friend after she ordered her package to be delivered straight to me? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. No, I don't think you're the jerk, not entirely. I think there is a situation where she just pays you back the $50 and you give her back all the crap that she sent your way. Like, that really could be a possible solution if you wanted to go that route. It's also worth noting that never in any universe would I pay $50 to collect a package that isn't mine. Like, straight up, I would be like, no, that's not mine, and then I would not collect it. Like, I don't care what's happening. So no, you're not the jerk, but also she could just pay you back, and I'm sure this could all be figured out. Because yeah, your friend's an idiot for doing things the way that she did. And if she had simply like let you know that this is what you're doing, then this all could have been worked out in the end. The owner of the restaurant I worked at literally yelled at 2 families on Father's Day as they were leaving, as he was pissed off at the kids of this family, stating that they were being rowdy. And after discovering that this guy has an anger issue and he really is not a good boss, I'm kind of not surprised that he turned on this family in the way that he did. Here's what happened. To start things out, the owner of my restaurant came in for Father's Day dinner with his family. I was serving 2 families that happened to run into each other, so they were both in booths back to back. While they were eating dessert, their kids were playing with each other beside the tables. Now, I absolutely hate bad parents and kids running around, but these families were very nice. And the kids weren't in the way at all. The tables were in the corner of the restaurant even, with nobody except the owner's table around. Now, I'm relatively new here, but I have 10 plus years in the industry, and it's a brand new restaurant, but from what I've seen, this guy has an insane temper problem, berating staff, telling new bartenders he's gonna fire them if they make a mistake, just an all-around awful boss. Anyways, it comes to a point where he asked my general manager to ask me to tell their kids to behave. At this point of their meal, they're both about to pay and leave, so I refuse because there's no point in doing that. I take their payments and both families are super happy. But when I leave for 2 minutes, all of a sudden, the owner's at their tables yelling at them for not watching their kids and disturbing his important guests, which by the way is his own family. Now, I just needed to rant because I have no issue telling kids or parents off, but these kids were genuinely no problem, and they weren't causing a disturbance at all. Not to mention they were getting up to leave when he went over to them. So what would you do in this situation? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Dude, someone in the comments section section pretty much stole my comment because like literally I would be looking for another job. There's no way I would stay working there. If this guy is literally the owner and is willing to yell at another family like that, then you better believe you're next on the chopping list. Like this guy's even going up to bartenders and being like, oh, if you make a mistake, you're gonna be fired. And it's like, wow, thanks, man. That's gonna make me do my job well. I'm not gonna be on edge all the time trying to make sure I don't make a mistake. Like, what is this guy doing? What an awful person. So yeah, that's what I would do in that situation. I would start finding literally anything else because this guy does not sound like a good boss, and I guarantee you he will yell at you at some point in the future. Am I the jerk for leaving a note asking someone why they kept parking in a specific way? Because their current parking job literally blocks my walkway, and after they responded back with a passive-aggressive note, it's making me question if maybe I overreacted, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my next door neighbors, which are 3 to 4 20-year-old something women, have been blocking my access to my front door and walkway in a really weird spot for a while. Instead of pulling forward to the curb, they stop right in the middle in front of my house and completely block access to my walkway. And for reference, there is no sidewalk as my walkway starts from the street. And at least 2 of them are either oblivious or inconsiderate at parking. If they pull forward maybe 2 to 3 feet to the curb, I could safely and easily access my house and it would be fine. But in the current spot, it's really awkward to try and scoot past their car or have to walk through my garden bed. Usually the mailman just tramples my flowers to get around and it's like, oh man, there goes my sage plant. Yesterday, while trying to get home, I tripped and fell hard while trying to get around their car. I was extremely frustrated, and after nearly a year of quietly putting up with their weird parking jobs and a handful of other incidents, I decided to leave the following note. I said to them, is there a reason you're not pulling forward all the way and blocking access to my house? I'm tired of delivery drivers commenting on my parking job when 95% of the time it's someone from your house parked here, even when your driveway in the street in front of my house is empty. Well, they responded and they said the following. They said to me, I sincerely apologize for blocking your walkway yesterday. I am happy to move my car forwards in the future, and I will pass this along to my roommates. I can assure you it was not intended to cause any discomfort to you, and I think this is a good opportunity to remind you how valuable kindness, connection, and community are right now. I don't believe we have ever spoken or introduced ourselves. I live beside you and I am a person. I have a whole entire life with challenges and feelings. Now, I have frankly put up with a fair amount over the last year from them where I have not spoken up, from tenants moving out and them leaving junk on my corner that literally blew into my yard for over a week, so I had to clean up after them. Not to mention their Christmas tree that kept ending up in my yard after I put it back, and they tossed it instead into my neighbor's yard across the street. They've caused damage to my garden bed rock wall from poor parking, and yet despite all of this, I have dealt with all of it politely and quietly up until now. I'm good friends with my other neighbors next door and friendly with everybody else. I did introduce myself to one of them when I first moved in, but she moved out shortly afterwards, and frankly, they haven't been very neighborly, so I have no interest in trying to establish a relationship with them. Also, other neighbors have described this house as a kind of circus wheel of people moving in and out. So with all that in mind, was my initial note really that offensive, or is her response just a passive-aggressive attempt at shaming someone for speaking up? Because right now, I'm still incredibly frustrated. Oh yeah, they're trying to be passive-aggressive 100%. Them trying to be like, oh, I have feelings and challenges. We need to be kind and have connection and have a community. Like that is literally some weird attempt at trying to like avoid responsibility, and that is obnoxious. There's no way that's appropriate. And no, this is not the same as someone parking in front of your house. Instead, this is literally them blocking the walkway to your house. Like I can imagine your house sitting right there on the street, and instead of moving forward just a little bit or backing up just a little bit, you know, so you have access to your walkway, they're just choosing to park right in front of it with no care in the world. So for them to be like, oh, we need to be kind and have community. But it's like, dude, if you had community and any kindness, you wouldn't be parking there. You would have some kind of self-awareness to be like, okay, I gotta move my car. Or at least send a note back by saying, oh, my bad, sorry about that, let me move my car out of the way from here on out. Like, why respond back with some weird passive-aggressive attitude? Like, that's so stupid. So no, you're not the jerk, and those neighbors are absolutely at fault, especially with that crappy message that they sent back. My entitled neighbor makes my life a living nightmare by disrespecting me and my space in a way that was completely unacceptable. So I decided to get some revenge by not only buying the lot between us that he was taking advantage of, but also getting the police involved to finally shut him down. Here's what happened. So my husband and I are buying our first home together. When we moved in, we quickly found out that our neighbor wanted respect that he wouldn't give anyone else. He was pretending to own the lot between our houses, and he had the nerve to confront our contractor about leaving his truck on it. Mind you, he had 4 junk cars parked on the lot already. He was also letting his dog crap on the lot and never cleaned up any of it. Not to mention that he never put a leash on the dog and just let him out freely even without looking to see see if we were outside. To add insult to injury, he started playing his music at any time of day and night as loudly as possible. Well, one day we got a notification from the city that we could buy the lot. And you know what? We absolutely purchased it. Then, when he refused to stop letting his dog out or to remove his last junk heap, I started calling the police and animal control. And I called them 4 times in 1 week, even going as far as having his junk heap towed by the police. He got so mad that he tried to confront me in front of the police. He was like, "What is it now? First you don't want my dog on your lot, and then you call about my music? Why are the police here now?" Well, as a result of all of this, he now keeps his dog in his yard, and he stops playing his music before 10 o'clock p.m. because sometimes people really just need to be put in their place. Dude, I love this because this really is the best kind of revenge you possibly could have gone with in this story. Like, this guy was being super disrespectful, he was trying to like claim everything around him, and I can completely see this type of person doing something like this, making your life a living nightmare. So good for you for buying it and basically shutting this guy down entirely. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not wanting to give up my room for my pregnant sister after my mom literally volunteered my room without my permission? Because right now I feel like a jerk and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I still live at home with my parents while I'm finishing grad school. I pay rent, I help out around the house, and generally I try to stay out of everybody's way. My older sister is married and recently found out she's pregnant, which I'm genuinely happy about. I really am. But this is where all the drama starts. She and her husband are in between apartments because their lease ended and their new place won't be ready for another 3 months. My mom suggested they move in temporarily, and I was fine with that until I found out my mom offered them my room. And she didn't even ask me first. When I brought it up, she said that I should be more understanding because my sister is pregnant and needs the space. Now, I offered to share the room instead of giving it up entirely because I have a desk, my books, and my entire life in that room. But my sister said it's not comfortable to share with me and that she needs the rest of the space. Their plan is for me to move into the smaller guest room, which is basically a storage space with no closet, and live out of boxes for the next few months. But I said no. I told them I am willing to share or help rearrange things, but I'm not giving up my whole space like I don't matter. My sister then called me selfish, and my mom said that she's disappointed in me. Even my dad, who usually stays neutral, said it's not a big deal and that I should be more supportive. I now feel like a villain in my own house, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to be treated like a placeholder in my own home just because I'm the youngest and not having a baby. What should I do? Okay, this would be really frustrating for me because there is no way I would be okay with this. These people seriously want to sit there and be like, "Oh, we're giving your room away, you need to move." And it's like, nope, that's not how it's gonna work. I pay rent, I have rights, and you're not gonna pull that crap. Like, you should not be expected to have to move your entire life at the drop of a hat, all because your pregnant sister is trying to move in. That is not how this works. That is absolutely inappropriate. So truly, I do not think you're the jerk for not wanting to move. Their demand and their request is completely irrational, and that is not something I would ever hold up in the slightest. An entitled Karen tries to cut me in line, literally by just walking right in front of me at the checkout line, forcing me to shut her down in a way that I'm sure she was not expecting. Here's how it happened. So a few days ago, I went to buy some essentials for my baby, namely some formula and diapers, so not really the smallest amount of shopping to do. As I was browsing the store, there was an elderly lady dictating her husband what to put in their cart. I kind of just rolled my eyes over that, but I didn't mind any further. But when it came to standing in line at the cashier, the line was kind of long for that store, like 6 to 7 people waiting. The guy in front of me was putting his stuff up the checkout belt, and I was still waiting to do the same thing as he was still going on and sort of blocking my way. Well, here comes the entitled Karen, formally dictating her husband. She had a few things in hand and went to stand between me and the guy in front of me, expecting me to let her skip the line. Now, it's safe to say that when there's not a long line in the back and a person really just has a few items, I will surely let them skip. But as soon as I start putting my stuff on the belt, ignoring her standing right there, she then starts to get pissed off. She says to me, "Excuse me, you should let me go first." I respond by saying, "Well, I wouldn't know why. There are a lot of other people you didn't ask behind me." She then says, "But I only have a few items." But I then point out and say, "Well, what about that full cart your husband has with him?" "But I'm in a hurry." "Yeah, and I want to be back home with my baby soon as well." After this back and forth, she then realized that she won't skip me and tried every person in line behind me. And ironically enough, she didn't even realize that they had opened a second checkout line that she literally could have gone in instead of bothering me and everybody else. Am I the jerk for telling another kid at the pool to please move out of our way? Because right now, this kid's mom is calling me the jerk, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my family is on vacation. Our condo complex has this pool that my kids call the fidget spinner pool because that is exactly what it looks looks like. 3 wide areas that connect with a big part of the pool. 2 of the wide areas are 3 feet, and one of them is 6 feet, with the center of the pool being about 4 feet. So me, my daughter, and 2 nieces, ages 10 through 13, are all at the pool together. There's another family with 3 kids and 4 adults. We're in one of the 3-foot sections, and they're in the other, and I'm tossing dive toys for my 3 kids. Well, a girl that's probably 8 years old from the other family comes over and asks what the kids were playing with. They then show her, and they ask her if she wants to play as well. She says, "No, I can't go underwater." And then she goes back to her family and gets in her inner tube. She then slowly floats her way over to the section that we're in and is now floating right in the middle, blocking my kids from being able to throw the dive toys and go get them. Now I say to her, "Can you move that way just a bit? They want to throw their toys and I don't want you to get hit by the toy." She then just turns herself away from me and just doesn't move. My niece then says, "Let's go to the deep section. It will make it harder anyways." So that's exactly what they do. They go over to the 6-foot section where no one is, and lo and behold, the little girl floats herself over there. I then hear my niece again ask if she wants to play, and I'm not sure if the girl responded, but she just didn't move. So the kids just throw the toys around her, and they all then dive for them, and of course are splashing as they dive down. Well, when this little girl gets splashed, she loses her mind. I see the mom start moving towards her, asking what happened, so I start walking over there too. As my kids are popping back up out of the water, she gets splashed again and screams, "They're splashing me on purpose." The mom then looks at my kids and in a gruff tone says, "Don't you 3 know that it's not nice to splash people? Learn some manners." I then say, "Well, my kids were playing over there when your girl came over. They asked her to play and she said no, but didn't move. So my kids came over here. Your kid then floated herself over here where she was asked again to play and she again refused and just floated there. It's not their fault she was in the way of their game. She purposefully came over here. Maybe she should learn some manners." The mom then replies by saying she is only 8 years old. She then tells her daughter, "Come on, some people are just rude." So I need to know if we did something wrong. Are we the jerks for splashing this kid even though we tried to avoid her? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Dude, this is one of those situations where you literally did everything right. You tried to ask the kid to move, you literally moved yourself, and yet still she showed up and just floated there in the way. And then she wants to sit there and be like, "They're splashing me on purpose," when she's the one who's actively obstructing anybody playing a game. It's like, are you kidding me right now? This is so ridiculous. And the fact that the mom's trying to be like, "Wow, you are so rude. She's only 8 years old. I can't believe you." But I'm just sitting here thinking okay, well, if she's 8 years old, then maybe you should watch her better. Maybe you should watch where your kid's going and not allow her to get in the way of other people. This is not the original poster's fault at all. This literally doesn't fall on you in the slightest. And the fact that this entitled Karen's trying to blame it on you is ridiculous. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because you and your kids did nothing wrong. My entitled male coworker is constantly treating everybody like garbage at work, as he has consistent outbursts and is really mean and stubborn to everybody around him. But after he tried that crap with me, literally as I was trying to do my job, I decided to clap back in a way that truly shut him down. And now I'm wondering if I made the right decision or if I crossed a line in some way that will ruin my job. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm part of a team of 6 developers and I'm the only woman on the team. We have several teams and I get along well with everyone. I'm usually thought of as nice to everyone and just joking around, etc. And I've heard several coworkers tell me that they enjoy working with me. But today I got into an altercation with one of my male coworkers. He is stubborn and is known to have outbursts at people, especially if we don't do exactly as he wants us to. He seems to struggle with nuances and gets mad at you if you don't solve something code related in the way that pleases him. He has been working at this company for over 10 years, whereas I've only been here a year, so there's that. I've never been micromanaged by someone as much as him, and he is not even my manager or my boss. In short, the altercation was this. I was handed a document with descriptions of how certain software components in our code base is intended to work. Some of the descriptions are newly revised, so I have to rewrite code to fit the description. The descriptions were unclear, so I decided to email the engineer who had written the document. He is very well versed into the system design of these components, and for the sake of the story, we can call him Marcus. Well, as I was typing my email, my male coworker exploded. He was yelling at me and saying, "I know these things. You should ask me. Stop bothering Marcus." Now, I'm usually cold in these situations and I don't really care about his outbursts, but this one really caught me due to his usage of the words bothering. I was typing a 2-sentence email, and he made it sound like I was sending Marcus hundreds of emails. I then looked back and I responded, "I'm sorry, are you my boss or something? I'm emailing him because I want his explanation since he has written this document." This guy then responded to me by saying, "You're so rude. That was so rude of you." And I was like, yeah, then go cry about it. When I said the last words, the entire landscape went quiet. Usually, no one stands up to this coworker, and he is having angry outbursts without anyone stepping in. And this is the first time I I stood up for myself. So I really need to know, did I do something wrong in this situation? Like, is it normal to have these outbursts at coworkers? I'm second guessing myself all the time, but I really feel like he's being the unreasonable one. What should I do? Dude, this is absolutely not your fault, and in my opinion, you did the right thing. This is one of those situations where this guy was messing around and he found out real quick. Like, clearly he's some kind of like spoiled brat, and no one's ever corrected him in the 10 years he's worked here, and so it looks like that has to be your job now. Because you're right, you literally were not doing anything wrong. You were asking the guy about the code that he wrote and trying to get information, and then this guy butts in out of nowhere. Like, you did not ask him for his help at all. He went ballistic because guess what? This is probably like a learned behavior. He treats everybody like this, so he was probably blown away when you're like, yeah, get lost and cry about it. As if you need any help from him. Like, are you kidding me right now? And even look at the way he reacted when you were literally sending an email to someone that wasn't him. Like, of course you're not going to ask him for help. Look at the way he acts. Like, I'm pretty sure this would be his same reaction if you did ask him a question. He would probably scream and cry and be like, why are you asking me any questions right now? So no, you're not the jerk. This guy deserved to get shut down. And in my opinion, it's something that probably should have happened much sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend does not want us to go to my best friend's wedding, all because his birthday just so happens to fall on the same day. And now he's making me choose, forcing me into a situation that I honestly really hate. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this story's about my boyfriend, and we've been dating for about 2 years now. My best friend's wedding is going to be on the same day as my boyfriend's birthday. My best friend was really excited when she sent me the invitation because she genuinely wants both of us to come. Yes, the both of us. She's inviting my boyfriend too since they were workmates for a few months. Now the thing is that his birthday is that day. And of course, I want him to be my date to the wedding, especially since it'll be our first time attending a wedding together. I was really excited when I told him over the phone that he was invited, but I didn't expect his reaction. He ended up sulking all day because it's his birthday, and it felt like he was making me choose between them. I assured him that we could celebrate his birthday in the morning, and I even have a surprise planned. The wedding is in the late afternoon, so I thought we could do both. I never said I wasn't going to celebrate his birthday. It's just that I can't control the fact that my best friend's wedding and his birthday fall on the same day. They both mean so much to me, but when I tried to explain that my best friend's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event, he got even more upset. I also reassured him that this doesn't make his birthday any less special, but he is still sulking about, and at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think your boyfriend is being completely irrational, because guess what? You're 100% right. This wedding happens once, and his birthday happens every single year. Is it really that big of a deal to be like, look, we're gonna try and do both, or we could do your birthday the next day? You're not neglecting him. This is just literally an extenuating circumstance. So in my opinion, I think your boyfriend's acting like a child, and the fact that he's not being more cooperative is really a telling sign, and that's a red flag I absolutely would not ignore. Am I overreacting for telling my neighbor off after she kept borrowing my tools without asking from my property? Because right now I'm being called the jerk, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in a pretty close-knit neighborhood, and for the most part, everyone is friendly. But there is this one neighbor who is an absolute Karen who's been borrowing my gardening and household tools for months now, which she is doing without asking me first. At first, I thought it was just forgetfulness or that she assumed it was okay. But when I started noticing my tools disappearing for days or even weeks, I politely asked her if she could please let me know the next time she needed something. When I said this, she brushed me off and said, "Oh, I just assumed it was fine since we live so close." Fast forward, and it just kept happening. And one day I went over and I found her using my electric drill without even telling me. I then told her, please don't just take my stuff without asking. It's mine and I need it sometimes. She then seriously got defensive and said that I was being too sensitive and not neighborly. I ended up telling her that she needs to respect boundaries or I can't lend her anything anymore. Now, some of my neighbors are saying that I'm overreacting and that I should be the one to be nicer since she might have had a rough time lately. But honestly, I feel disrespected. So am I overreacting for standing my ground and telling her off? Because right now I still feel incredibly pissed off. Dude, I don't care how close-knit a community is. The second someone starts stealing my tools and not giving them back is the second I'm gonna get really pissed off. And it sounds like this Karen is using everybody else's friendliness as like an advantage for her to get free stuff. Because what's gonna happen is that she's gonna borrow something, she's gonna forget she has it, and then try to be like, oh yeah, no, that's actually mine. And then you're stuck having to buy new tools, and it's like, dude, this is not fair. The reasonable thing here is to ask if you want to use something, and then maybe you'll say yes. But her assuming this is okay is just so messed up in my opinion. So no, this is not an overreaction, and and the fact that she thinks it is completely insane. My stepdad treats me like the housemaid while also never doing anything around the house himself, and it's getting to the point where I simply can't take it anymore, and I now just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old male and I'm turning 20 in a week. Last night, my little sister wanted a bottle of water before going to bed, and my stepdad started complaining because she grabbed one of his water bottles. Now, mind you, we have a tap, but for whatever reason, we all just kind of refuse to drink from it. We also have a water dispenser that no one wants to fix. So basically, we have no choice but to use the bottled water in the fridge. What annoys me isn't even the water thing. It's the double standard. They always expect me to do chores around the house, even when I've been gone all day. Meanwhile, everyone else just sits around and does nothing, and somehow I'm still the one who gets asked to clean up. They tell me to wash my dishes every time I eat, which I actually do, but when my sister leaves her plates out, nobody says anything. On top of that, sometimes their stuff ends up in my room, and they still call me messy for it. And then when I try to point it out, they'll just hit me with, "Oh, well, who pays the rent around here?" But seriously, that doesn't mean I should be cleaning up after everyone's mess, especially when they don't even clean up after themselves. The worst part is the hypocrisy. I've been told, well, if there are no dishes in the sink, wash your plate. And it's like, cool, I do that, but they don't. So there are always dishes in the sink and it's their dishes. And somehow it's still my fault? I mean, make it make sense. My sister, for the record, doesn't even go to school right now. She just stays home and plays Roblox. She's messy, she's younger, and honestly gets treated way lighter than I ever did at that age. At this point, I feel more like the family maid than anything else. And right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, that really would be so frustrating. I see exactly what you're talking about with this double standard, and honestly, that would drive me insane. I would be super frustrated dealing with that, like seriously. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be planning to move out and find roommates or something like that, but obviously your situation might be more nuanced than that, so I can't say, oh yeah, just move out, because who knows what's really going on there. But hopefully something changes and you're able to like figure out a better situation for yourself, or they're able to see that, yeah, there's a double standard and it's really not fair for you, because you definitely should not be expected to be the maid of the house, and everyone really should be carrying their own weight around here, because otherwise it's just completely unfair. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for wanting to cut my mom out of my life, all because she went to South Korea despite the fact that she's in horrible debt? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my mom is currently in South Korea on vacation with my oldest sister, which took all of us by surprise because my mom is poor and in debt. For just a bit of backstory, my parents divorced and my dad was deported when my siblings and I were quite young. So we grew up poor, constantly asking for help with rent and food from our church. It was humiliating for my mom, and sometimes she could get loans from loan sharks and just end up in a lot of debt. My mom has less debt now, but she still struggles with money. Early in my marriage, my husband and I saved up about $2,000 and we gave it to her as a gift to help her out. She is still my mom and I care about her. Later, when her car broke down, my husband and I decided to give her the car that we currently had. We knew that she didn't have a car and it could affect her ability to go to work, making it much harder for her to earn any kind of income. Well, last year, as a gift, we took her back to her home country, covering the flights, the hotel, and even new clothing and luggage. When I was younger, our family always talked about going to see her homeland and meeting her relatives there, but we never had the money to make it happen. Finally, my husband and I were able to make that happen, even though my brother and sister couldn't join due to their own finances. Now, my oldest sister could have come, but she was saving for a trip to South Korea, and that was surprising to me, but I thought maybe she wanted to wait until everyone could go. 6 months later, my oldest sister was in fact going to South Korea, and my mom wanted to go too. I initially kept quiet about it, but then my mom brought up this old idea of us pulling our money together to pay off her debts, and this immediately angered me. My husband and I were still in school, we're working full-time jobs, we're paying our own bills, and we're actively trying to avoid debt. While we're not struggling like my other sister and my younger brother are, we are certainly not rich either. That trip and the $2,000 we gave my mom took a long time for us to save up for. So I snapped back. I said to her, why don't you use the money for South Korea to pay for your own debts? And when I said this, my mom went silent. Apparently, my mom and my brother had a huge fight about this, and for reference, my brother currently lives with my mom. He works 3 jobs and pays rent, while my mom covers utilities. He's told me there's often no food at home, and he's even considered going to a food bank, and this absolutely enraged me. I genuinely feel for my brother. While he's been at fault for most of his past choices, as he was lazy, played video games all day and night, and got constantly fired from jobs, he's now making an effort to get his life back on track. He's working hard to pay off his own debts, and we respect that. So my brother got mad at mom for wanting to go on this trip. It just doesn't make sense given the debt that she has, and how much they have both been struggling. My mom, however, argues that she deserves this trip after working hard for us for years. years, claiming that she's never been anywhere and doesn't count her home country as a real vacation. And you know what? My oldest sister completely agrees with my mom. Now, my mom did work incredibly hard for us as a single mother, enduring grueling hours as a nanny, a cleaner, and working graveyard shifts at a nursing home. She never bought herself new clothing, never went out and partied, and never brought home men or had any other boyfriends. Her life was dedicated to working and providing for us. And that's precisely why it made sense to us that she deserves something nice before she passes away. Guys, my mom is in her 60s and still works as a custodian. We're truly worried she won't make it another 10 years. And that's also another reason we didn't wait to take her to her homeland. Still, the whole situation left a weird taste in my mouth. I thought her going on this trip would undoubtedly strain her relationship with my brother. Well, I was completely wrong. 2 days after arriving in South Korea, my mom asked my other sister for $500 to cover the hotel since my oldest sister was leaving earlier than she was. My other sister and her husband are doing okay, but they're struggling more than my husband and I. They're both working hard and her husband is also going to school. So my sister explained to my mom that they're living paycheck to paycheck and apologized for not being able to help out. And you know what? My mom's response was chilling. She told my sister she was glad she didn't have the money because it just confirms that they are not doing a good job in their lives and they need to get different jobs. And this was a shocking turn, as my mom had been happy when my sister got her current job. She then questioned, what are they going to do if she gets pregnant? Which is another ironic statement, considering she wanted my husband and me to have a baby when we were living in his demon grandma's basement. My mom added that she could have asked her coworker, but wanted to ask family first. Finally, she declared that my sister and brother would no longer receive their life insurance money after she dies until they're in their 40s. And mind you, this is all because my sister didn't give my mom $500 for a trip that she decided to go on, despite not having the money to do so. My sister sent me the message and I was absolutely furious. My sister is my best friend and the one I consider to be my real mom. She has always been there for me, protected me, and has been the one that's been helping me through everything. She's the one who knows all my deepest, darkest secrets. I always told her that I don't care if nobody else showed up to my wedding because her presence was the only one that truly mattered. Well, my sister was crying in the bathroom stall when this all went down. Not because of the money, I mean my sister couldn't care less about that. She was crying because of how my mom reacted. This whole situation infuriated me. So I messaged my mom, telling her not to treat my sister like that ever again. This behavior is not like my mom. I mean, when did she become so greedy? And she only asked my other sister for the money and not me. When she found out I knew, she told my sister how cruel she was for showing her messages to me and said that now she was even more mad at her. This wasn't the first time my mom had treated my sister in such a manner, but it was the first time she had reacted so harshly or that the situation escalated to this point. My other sister had always been a pushover for our mom. My older sister and I could always say no or argue, but my other sister was never able to. Whatever mom wanted, she did it, even when it didn't make her happy. She even moved to New York and was quite content there, but my mom called her and told her to come back, promising that if she returned, she wouldn't have to pay rent and could just save some money. And of course, that was a complete lie. My mom also complained that my sister had abandoned her and wasn't a good daughter for moving to New York. And by the way, this constant dynamic seems to only happen to my sister. It's almost as if my mom hates her and we just can't understand why. My sister has always been there for our mom, yet whenever she tries to do something for herself, our mom acts like it's the worst thing imaginable. Nothing my sister does ever seems to be right in her eyes. My mom messaged me back saying that I need to respect her and that I need to stop because what she wants to do with her money is her choice. She said if we wanted to take the car back, then we should do it. And if I never wanted to talk to her ever again, then that's fine with her. So with that in mind, I'm at a loss of what to do. On one hand, I obviously want to cut my mom out of my life and take back the car that we gave her. I mean, I'd rather give it to my sister-in-law who lives with us. She's been having car problems and I know she would treat the car better and actually pay for it. And as a side note, my mom actually got furious when we had my brother-in-law and his wife move in with us, simply because we didn't ask my mom to move in with us, since apparently she needs the real help. We actually asked them to move in to help them escape demon grandma's house, but that's an entirely different story. Now, the idea of cutting her out breaks my heart because I love her and I will miss her terribly. I miss her smile, her hugs, her cooking, all of her dancing. I simply miss my mom, but she's hurt my sister once too many times. Her behavior is awful and I'm fed up. My brother is completely on our side as he doesn't care about the money either and says that he stopped depending on our mom years ago. We're worried these outbursts are signs of Alzheimer's or dementia. My mom always says that she's forgetting things and we've been meaning to get her checked out, but what if it's not? My brother's and my birthdays are coming up and at first I considered not inviting her, but I feel bad because I don't want to ruin my brother's birthday. My other sister said that she'll be there only if the rest of us are there, but she she will avoid our mom. And to be honest, I don't even want to see my mom. So do we just deal with it and keep our distance? Or do we just cut her out completely? Do we take away the car since she said that we could? She doesn't own the car and my husband has the key to it. And my husband wants to talk to her when she returns, but I'm worried that she'll snap at him. She also deleted the toxic message that she sent to my sister, but at this point, the damage is already done. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, your mom sounds like an awful manipulative person. Like seriously, if I was in your shoes, I would be putting up a lot of barriers and a lot of I don't know, boundaries of some kind. She clearly is taking advantage of all of your kindness and all your generosity. Also, she can go on a vacation that she can't even pay for. And now it's so funny that she's trying to be like, oh yeah, take back the car if you need to. It's like she's trying to fall on this sword when it's like, yeah, you're right, I probably should take it back. But I guarantee you, the second you do take that car back, she is going to hold that over your head forever. She's gonna be like, wow, you're just as bad as your sister. You don't care about your mother. You're leaving me without a job and not able to get around. So if you go that route, that really is what's gonna happen. But if I was in your shoes, I would definitely do it anyways. Like, I can only speak for me, but there's only so much disrespect I can handle until I finally snap and I say, okay, this is not happening anymore. You're not gonna talk to me like that. You're not gonna talk to my family like that. And you're definitely not gonna take advantage of me being kind to you. Like, seriously, what is she doing, man? This is so stupid. She's throwing these temper tantrums because she knows she'll get what she wants. And that sucks for everybody involved. Like, seriously, that's not fair for you or your siblings or anybody. So no, you would not be the jerk for cutting her off, because from the sounds of it, she does not sound like a good person in the first place. My entitled neighbor keeps sitting on our back patio, despite the fact that it's clearly not theirs, and we've told them several times to get lost. Here's what's going on. So I live in a large apartment complex that is only 2 stories, but really spread out. Every 2 apartments have back patios that are attached to each other, but it is still obvious what side is yours and what side is your neighbor's. I've never had any issues with this newer neighbor before this, so I was rather stunned when he became an issue all of a sudden. To access the back patio, we have a sliding glass door that you access from the living room, and in my living room, my recliner is right next to the sliding glass door. So about 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in my chair watching TV, and my husband is at work, and I can suddenly hear my neighbor very clearly talking outside, but in this instance, they are talking so loud. Thinking this is odd, I lean forward and I move the shade over the door, and I am stunned to see my male neighbor sitting in a chair right in front of my sliding glass door. Now, I am very disconcerted by this, but I am alone, and I don't feel comfortable telling him to move while I'm alone. I mean, after all, I don't really know him. My husband comes home and I tell him, and he goes right outside and moves his chair once the neighbor had gone inside that was blocking our door. Well, about an hour later, the guy comes back out and tries to move the chair right back to where it was. I was still watching TV, so I could hear the dragging sound. I then opened my door and I told him he couldn't do that. This was our side and not his. And when I said that, he says to me, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Well, fast forward, and when I come home 2 days later, his chair is right outside the door yet again. And this time I take a picture with him in the chair. I moved his chair 3 more times since I really did not want to have to report him to the landlords, but he simply kept moving it back. Well, yesterday I reported him as he was sitting in his chair, while also showing the picture that I had taken. And trust me, the landlord's eyes were as big as saucers when she saw it. She was out there within 5 minutes to tell him that this was a no-no and to not do it again. When I told her that this had been going on for a while, she asked why I did not report it before, but I told her I had hoped that we could just settle it between us and that I didn't want to escalate it if possible. Because honestly, it seems like privacy means nothing to anybody these days. Yeah, for me personally, I'm a very private person, and I know for a fact this would really bother me. Like seriously, just stay on your own side. You can sit out there and talk as long as you want and as loudly as you want. Just do it at the hours where it's appropriate and just stay off of my side of things. Like, I'm an easy guy to live next to, just literally don't bother me and don't invade my space and we will get along just fine. So I know for a fact any neighbor doing this to me would drive me absolutely insane. My entitled mother-in-law is literally throwing a separate birthday party for my son right before the one I was planning just to try and make mine look bad. She's even gone as far as posting this online, literally confusing the people who were supposed to go to my party for my son. But now, after I told her she can't do that and basically shut down any plan she had, she's now saying I'm denying her grandmother rights, with my husband even saying that I should let her do it just to avoid a fight. And at this point, I'm so annoyed that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my son is turning 5 next month, and I've been planning a small backyard birthday party for him. He's obsessed with dinosaurs, so I'm doing a dinosaur theme one with a piñata, a fossil dig game, and a cute T-Rex cake that I'm making myself. It's not fancy, but it is what he loves, and we're keeping it chill since money is tight. Well, my mother-in-law, who is the Karen of this story, has always been over the top. Last week, she called and said she's throwing a better birthday party for my son at her house, which by the way is literally the day before before mine. She's booked a bounce house, a magician, and a catered taco truck. She didn't ask me or my husband, but instead just decided it was happening and invited all her friends' kids and not even my son's classmates. Well, I told her we're already having a party, and she can't just plan a separate one without talking to us first. Well, when I said that, she just laughed and said, "Oh honey, kids love big parties, and I'm just giving him the best day ever." Then she posted pictures on Instagram of the bounce house with a caption by saying, "Getting ready for my grandson's epic birthday bash." Now, people are texting me confused about which party to attend. I finally told her she's not throwing a separate party because it's my son's day and not hers. And now she's crying to my husband that I'm denying her grandma rights. My husband thinks I should let her do it to avoid a fight, but I'm honestly so annoyed. So am I the jerk for shutting this down? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Dude, you are definitely not the jerk, and yes, your mother-in-law is overstepping big time. First of all, your husband is spineless for not backing you up. Like, this guy's just trying to avoid conflict with a mom who has clearly overstepped his boundaries forever, and he's now expecting you to do the same thing just to keep the peace. And under different circumstances, sure, I'm a big fan of keeping the peace and choosing my battles. But this is like a blatant disrespect towards you and like anything you're trying to do. She is literally trying to hijack your son's wedding just so she can look better and make you look bad. Like, that's all that's going on right now. And she's forced your hand in a way that's like completely ridiculous. Like, she's pretty much guaranteed the narrative is going to make you look bad no matter what. And it's going to take a lot of work for people to understand the truth, that instead your mother-in-law's insane and she did this on purpose. And what does she really expect? Does she expect you to just hand over your kid and be like, okay, go to your first party? Like, no, that's not going to happen. She can't just plan a party for your kid without your permission. Like, it's your kid. So no, you're not the jerk here, and your mother-in-law is absolutely overstepping her boundaries. Because I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would have the exact same reaction. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk and his girlfriend tried to steal our movie theater seats that were the prime spot in the theater, forcing me to put this idiot in his place and get him to move out of the way, as he seriously tried to guilt trip me all because he had to move out of my seats. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I pre-booked 2 seats in the back middle of a movie theater to have a rare night out with a kid at home. This theater, by the way, only has 40 seats because these are fully lounge recliners with seat service. Anyways, when I pre-booked them online, no one else had yet booked any of their seats that day. So I'm thinking, great, maybe we get the place to ourselves. So we show up, walk up to our row, and a man and a woman in their late 20s maybe are sitting in our 2 middle seats that are the prime location due to the screen size and the angles. I say to them, hey, I think you're in our seats. And the girlfriend starts to unrecline and stand up to move when the boyfriend grabs her arm and looks around the empty theater and says, why? There's plenty of other seats available. To which I immediately reply by saying, exactly, so you won't have any trouble finding somewhere to sit instead of the seats we paid for. The girlfriend is uncomfortable at this point, and the guy says, seriously? And I just told him, look, you're sitting there because they're the best seats, which is why we booked them. He then grumbled and moved, and his girlfriend initially wanted to sit further away in the row, but he decided to be petty and sit right in front of us the row down. But you know what? The joke's on him. I had worked all day, and I removed my shoes once I reclined, and those feet must have stank really bad being 2 feet away from their head for the next 2 hours. Okay, I will never understand someone legitimately stealing someone else's seats and then turning around and being like, why are you trying to make us move? You could sit anywhere. Almost as if them having to move is somehow your problem, even though those are literally your seats. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? Like, to be that entitled must be so exhausting. So I personally really love the way that you handle this because that guy sounded like a miserable jerk. My entitled boss refuses to pay us on time and even decided to lie to me when I was getting this job by saying that if we work harder and faster, we'll get paid more. So I decided to get some petty revenge that truly put him in his place. Here's what I did. So I was working for this window company making plastic windows, but we were like a small workshop with 3 workers and 1 overseer, which belonged to one of the largest companies in the country. The boss always insisted on doing everything by the book for us, you know, as long as it didn't slow down production. If it did, then he just didn't care. But he himself always forgot to send work hours to human resources for us to get paid on time like it said on our contracts. Like, sometimes he would be 2 weeks late, which meant at that point you were late on payments. And our boss's boss was always hounding him, and he would just brown nose it and then try to lash out on us because he was yelled at. So overall, he was a very unpleasant person. It was the only job in my small rural town at the time, so I just endured it. After 3 months, I was given work boots, some pants, a jumper, and a coat. But in contract, it was clearly stated that you have to sign for all inventory given proven and return it if you quit. And he, of course, didn't give me anything to sign, and I didn't care at the time. When joining the job, we talked that we would get bonus on work done on time, and we even went as far as starting work so fast that he had trouble getting blueprints from the office as we finished our supposed workload in half the time the company expected. But of course, there was no pay increase. After the second month of no increase in pay and the big boss visit where they expressed surprise at how well we were working, I went to ask why we had no pay increase. He tried to weasel out saying that it wasn't official, which is apparently my own fault for not having it in contract. But I said that we talked about it and that this was his own offer in words. But you know what? He just smiled and grinned and said, "Prove it." Well, after that, I boiled inside for a week until I found a job in a town over and I just straight up quit. 2 days later, my boss calls me up saying I need to sign papers for quitting for human resources, and I just said, "Sure, come by my home and I'll sign it." He arrives and starts saying, "Okay, give me the equipment too." But I just said to him, "Well, I never signed for the equipment, so officially I never received any." He then got serious and kind of angry with me. He said to me, "Don't be like that. I know you've got it, just bring it out." So I said with the most satisfying look on my face, "Oh yeah? Prove it." The guy who stayed there said the boss got visited by the big boss and was seriously yelled at. And as he heard it, the cost of it was deducted from his pay. After 8 years, I still have those boots, and they still serve me daily very well. In fact, all the other clothing was really good quality too, and they're still being used on occasion, reminding me that just once I got one over on my boss. Okay, if this isn't like the best proof possible that you would ever need to say, yes, you need things in writing, then my God, let this be the example you can lean on. Seriously, this guy signed him onto this job and said, "Oh yeah, if you get stuff done early, then you get a bonus," only for him to turn around and be like, "Oh yeah, I never said that. You can't prove it either." And honestly, this is the kind of evidence I need to be like, okay, you need things in writing no matter what, especially with a corrupt boss who's gonna treat you like this. So good for you for getting your petty revenge, because this guy sounds like an absolute nightmare to have to work for. Am I the jerk for not hiring my cousin at my startup, all because my psycho aunt reached out and demanded that I do so? Because right now she's really pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I have a tech startup and one of my aunts reached out because her son is looking for a job and has asked me to hire him. We are not close at all, but since they are still family, I responded and I asked her to have him message me directly so that we can have a chat and have him scheduled for an interview. Now, I did not say this exactly though, and I just responded with, "Please have him message me the soonest." Well, a week has passed and he has not reached out. My aunt then messages me again and says I should ping her son and tell him I'm offering him a job. And this is where I get a little pissed off, because for one, they are asking me for a favor. Why should I be the one to reach out? And secondly, I never said I'm offering him a job. So I said exactly that. I said I'm not offering him a job, but I'm offering an interview. And when I said that, she just completely lost it. She said her son has been jobless for a year, and in this economy, I should help them out. She then said to me, "Well, this is what family is for." She also then called me names and said that I'm such a jerk because I promised her a job for her son, and he has stopped applying since then. She's been flooding me with horrible messages since then, and at this point, I have no plans on giving my cousin a chance at all. So am I the jerk? Was my response really easy to misunderstand? Or is there something else going on here that I have nothing to do with? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I really cannot stand when family does this because I've run into this too in my own situation, and that is honestly so obnoxious. Like seriously, the dialogue started by her saying, "Oh yeah, my son's looking for a job," but it somehow led to being like, "Oh yeah, he's being offered a job," and then, "Oh my God, why aren't you giving him a job? This is what family's for." And it's like, dude, if this is what family's for, then I don't want to be a part of this family. That really sucks, and I just don't want to deal with that. So no, you're not the jerk. You literally did nothing wrong. You were not offering anybody a job, and the fact that she assumed that was somehow coming along with just being related to you, that is really crazy and something that you should definitely not have to deal with. My idiot job is constantly saying they will fire us if we don't find someone to replace us for a shift that we're taking off. And despite the fact that this is literally the manager's job, I decided to maliciously comply by sending my deadbeat brother who's unemployed over to my fast food job that I was quitting, by the way, just to cover me for my last day of employment, resulting in my now former boss getting pretty pissed off at me. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start things off, I worked at a fast food joint when I was in high school, and this joint was stopped rostering staff after they turned 18 as they would need to be paid more. And for reference, I was 17 and a half at the time. Now, management was really lame. They would expect us to find a replacement for missed shifts, regardless of how much notice we gave. If we were understaffed, we would have to turn non-drive-through orders away, but otherwise it would be business as normal. Now, I had my final end of year 12 exams. I did 6 subjects, and the exam for each subject was held on different dates in November. I provided 3 months of notice, and yet still, I was asked to find a replacement the night before my exam, or I would be let go. Now, if an employee ghosted my boss at this point, they'd be let go, and my boss would typically find someone else to cover the shift, which is something that he should be doing by default. But you know what? This is not a problem. I texted my boss that I found a replacement, and it's then that I sent my deadbeat brother who was unemployed and on welfare for the past 3 years there to cover my shift. Well, my boss went ballistic. He sent me a barrage of text messages, blaming me for costing them money and informing me that I was let go. But I only read those messages after my final exam, and then I blocked him, because that kind of energy is not something I need in my life. Yeah, that sounds like an awful place to work. This guy literally lets people go the second they turn 18, all because he would have to pay them more? Like, what is going on right now? That's horrible business practice. Like, do you not want anybody to like be trained properly and have, I don't know, experience at your job? Like, why not have people on hand that know what they're doing instead of having a rotating staff of teenagers who are constantly being fired? That's so stupid. Like, literally, that really is lame. So good for you for getting one over on this guy, because he sounds like a complete moron. My entitled mom says that she's going to take away my college fund, all because I wouldn't stay at her house during my uncle's wedding. So now I've had to go to extreme lengths just to secure my future and make sure that she doesn't ruin it in a way that honestly is so unfair. Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my uncle got married, and way before that I asked him if I could bring my partner to the wedding, and he and his wife were okay with it, but my mom was against it, saying that this was a family-only event, and then changing the reason each time the topic came out, mainly because she's homophobic and couldn't keep a good reason to exclude my partner without looking homophobic. It was stressing me and making me very annoyed, and so I decided that me and my partner wouldn't stay at her place during the wedding. I live in another city for college, and I informed my uncle, my mom, my dad, and another uncle about my plan, and it was fine until a week before the wedding. My mom suddenly asked me when my partner and I would be arriving at her house, and I reminded her that we wouldn't stay with her and already had arrangements for our stay. Well, when I said that, she was suddenly furious, saying I was destroying our family and that I didn't have any right to make a decision on my life while she was paying for my college. I then got angry and I said that I did this because I needed space from her and that the way she was acting was the main reason why I needed this. Then she said, well, if you want to be so independent from me, then so be it. I am no longer going to pay for your college. Now, after the wedding, when I came back to the city, I talked to my college counselor and my career coordinator to inform them about my situation. They were very empathetic and they came out with a plan in case my mom was serious about it. I then asked her in a very serious tone if she really meant this, or if it was just something that she said in the heat of the moment. Well, she didn't answer, instead saying that if I really wanted an answer, then I should talk to my dad, and he would have to check that I was mentally stable to continue funding my education. Now, for reference, my parents are divorced, but my dad has always acted like a mediator in important decisions because me and my mom just don't get along. So I just said, well, this wouldn't resolve anything, because this is a cycle. There's a stupid fight, my mom threatens with something, I have to talk to my dad, and then she acts like nothing happened, and then it just goes on and on. But this time was my breaking point. Dealing with her like this always stresses me out, and even affected my grades. So I talked to my college counselor and my career coordinator to discuss more about the plan. I can't pay rent and college while living in the city, so I will move in with my partner to live in the same city, and then just move to online classes for the rest of my career. Meanwhile, my career coordinator will help me get a scholarship to cover part of my college fees, and I will also find scholarships on large business and government programs to pay for college. I talked to my dad about it, and he seemed concerned about it, and asked me if I was sure about this, but I told him about how tense my relationship with my mom is, and how I can't trust my future in someone that behaves like that, and that relying on someone that threatens to take my future for any petty reason is not someone that I can depend on. He said that he definitely agreed, and then asked me how he could help me out. So I told him that I just need the same help he was giving me since I moved from college. And for reference, he sends me money to pay rent, and I will just be using the same amount to spend it on rent, groceries, and any other doctor's appointments and medicine I might need. Well, my dad said this is fine and he will still send the same amount. My college fees for the semester were already paid for before the wedding, so I just have to get good grades and just not fail. But you know what? After I move in with my partner, I will go low contact with mom, inform her that she doesn't have to pay any college fees from now on, and that I don't want to be near her until she goes to therapy. I don't have any hopes that she will change, but the main reason I will maintain contact with her is because she pays for my phone bills. And sure, she wouldn't like it, but she will hate not being able to contact me in any way. And honestly, it's one of the few things that she's taught me when I was living with her. You hide anything and seek any weakness on anyone so you can know how to manipulate it at your own favor. And I know this is entitled from me, but it is some way that I can still communicate with my dad, as I don't want him to cover for more than what he is already giving me, which is the reason why I want her to pay my phone bills. And then maybe in a year I can pay for it by myself. My mom is the only one that is not aware of this. I plan to cut her off after I graduated college, but seeing how she threatened me this time, I will just go low contact with her. I had a plan before, but actively threatening my future over not staying with her during my uncle's wedding is so ridiculous. But it's not the first time she has felt entitled over me. She has pulled similar moves in the past, but honestly, it's nothing as serious as this. Oh my god, your mom sounds awful. Like, I completely understand why your dad divorced her. She seriously tried to throw your entire future out the window, all because you didn't want to stay at her house for this stupid wedding. Which, by the way, she knew about this, but instead decided, oh, I'm gonna make this into a big deal. Just you wait, you're gonna regret crossing me. Like, dude, what is going on right now? That is so dumb. But I've gotta say, with all things considered and all the details you've given us, I do kinda like your plan a lot. I think this is a solid plan of action, and no, I don't think you're manipulating anyone here. If your mom was to sit there and be like, oh, I'm gonna ruin your college career, and try to like cut you off from having any kind of education, then guess what? You need to make plans and you need to like prepare for her being crazy, because this kind of behavior is not normal. This is not okay. She can't just do that all because you didn't agree to one thing that she wanted that, by the way, you already discussed about. So hopefully all this works out for you, and hopefully you're able to get away from your psycho mom, because her behavior, in my opinion, is very detrimental and you do not deserve that in the slightest. An entitled jerk parks his Porsche across 3 handicapped spots, leaving me with nowhere to park, as I most definitely needed that after having a surgery. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only getting him in trouble, but also getting him banned from the Target I was shopping at. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this just happened yesterday. In late April, I hurt my foot and ankle, which required surgery, so I was given a temporary handicap placard. I then went to Target to pick up some groceries in the middle of the afternoon when I knew it would be dead. But here's the part that really blows my mind. A single car was taking up 3 spots parked horizontally across 3 lanes. A very nice Porsche is sitting there with no tags and no placards, and the passenger side window was wide open like an invitation. So I grabbed some dirt and gravel nearby and lightly sprinkled it all over the passenger seat for theatrics. Then I went inside and I told the front desk that I thought I saw a raccoon slip inside the Porsche hogging the handicapped spots. And by the way, this is obviously a lie. They then announced over the intercom, asking the owner to come up. I stayed within viewing distance to see what would happen, which is when I saw a dude practically run over, yelling about his car and calling the employees names for lack of pest control, clearly pissed off and very annoyed. Not long after, a big biker-looking security guard showed up, who then called parking enforcement to handle the parking violation. Long story short, this guy ended up being banned from that Target for his conduct, and honestly, I can't think of a better person for this to happen to. Yeah, you've got to be a pretty big D-bag to park like that, especially across handicapped parking spots. So good for the original poster for getting this guy in trouble, because he absolutely deserved it. My boyfriend let his ex move in with him so that their kids could see their mom for the first time in 2 years. And this entire situation has me wondering what's really going on in that house, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 23-year-old female and my boyfriend is 34. He has young kids from a previous relationship, and he let their mother move into his house a couple of weeks ago, saying that she had nowhere else to go and that he wanted her back in the kids' lives. And for reference, she hasn't seen the kids in over 2 years because of her alcoholism. I don't live with him, and I'm also not able to go to his house anymore because she is always there, and it would just cause some huge drama. He snuck out of his house last night to come see me, and we'd only been together for a few minutes before she called him 4 times in a row, screaming at him to come back to the house or she was going to throw his stuff on the lawn. He promptly left me to go back to the house and fight with her, and it was obvious she wants to get back together with him and she's just jealous. He claims that he hates her guts and that he would never cheat or do anything with her. And by the way, she cheated on him, which is why they broke up. However, I am extremely skeptical of any living situation where a man and woman similar in age are together, separate bedrooms or not, especially when it's your ex, for crying out loud. It's unacceptable to me, and I tried to break up with him over it, but he begged me to stay. So please, be honest. Is there any chance that they're not spending quality time together, if you know what I mean? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Dude, this sounds like a mess. Like, seriously, what is going on right now? You're telling me that your boyfriend is letting his ex move back in with him, and now she's actively trying to get in the way of your relationship with him? Like, I'm sorry, this sounds crazy and there is no good excuse for this. This literally screams, oh yeah, she's trying to sabotage your relationship. And the fact that he would even allow this to happen, like, good lord, set up visitation conditions or something. Don't let her move in with you. Like, what's going on right now? This seems really stupid. So I know if I was in your shoes, I don't think I would ever want to deal with this because this sounds like way too much drama for me. I would honestly be so turned off by this, I would not want anything to do with this relationship. So hopefully you can figure out some kind of silver lining here because based on what you told us, I don't see anything anytime soon. My job is treating me like crap after I took some paid time off to deal with the fact that I just had a heart attack, as they literally kept messaging me and calling me, demanding that I still work even though my heart was seriously needing some time to heal. So I decided to get some revenge by deciding to start a new job 2 days after my PTO ends, because I know for a fact that these people will not allow me to take a 2-week notice, and they will only use this opportunity to try and screw me over. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm sitting at home right now wondering if they will figure all of this out. I have 81 hours of PTO on the books. On Fridays, I teach a class on first aid and CPR. I'm the only one who is trained and certified to teach this class for the company that I work for. On a Friday, after teaching the class, I had left work with only an hour left in my day. Well, I then went to the hospital and found out I suffered a heart attack, and I'm back at work on Tuesday mornings as I only work Tuesday through Friday. I was reading the PTO policy and noticed if you voluntarily terminate your employment with the company, you will lose your PTO with no chance of a cash-in or a buyout. Now, being the guy who follows the rules, I put in for 80 hours of PTO to recover from my heart attack. My boss was super upset about the amount of time I'll be off because I will not be there to cover his vacation. I then went to Human Resources and I filed this as an FMLA medical requirement before telling my boss. And you know what? During my time off, I've been bombarded with numerous telephone calls asking me why I'm not answering my emails. I told my boss I get paid to read emails and I'm on PTO, so please let me rest and recuperate. I will see you when I get back. An old colleague of mine reached out and asked me if I would like to come teach at their corporation. The pay is about 35% more than what I'm currently making, and I really liked working for this individual. So I filled out an application, and when they asked for the start date, I gave the date as 2 days after my PTO ends. Well, today is my last day of PTO, and in the morning, I'll give them notice of my last day of work, which will be the end of business on Sunday. So am I the jerk for caring about myself first before the company that I work for? I know for a fact I will not give them a 2-week notice, as I've been with this company for 5 years, and I've seen many people leave and get screwed over by this company with or without a 2-week notice. What should I do? Oh my gosh, this is one of those scenarios where no one else matters except for you. You've got to take care of yourself and you've got to do what's right for you. And trust me, these people suck and there is so much evidence to back that up. Like, first of all, the fact that they're calling you on PTO and are seriously expecting you to work after you had a heart attack, like, that's crazy to me, and I just can't believe that they would be that obtuse. And also, it sounds like you know this company, and you know for a fact if you give a 2 weeks notice, they're not going to give you anything that you need. They're going to screw you over, and they're going to use that time to make you feel like crap. And I don't know if anyone else has paid attention to this, but it seems like nowadays 2-week notices are just pointless. They don't do anything, and if anything, it gives the company a chance to like really hurt your reputation or your future job. There's never any happy send-off. It's never seen as a good thing. It's only seen by the company as like, oh wow, they're leaving us. I guess it's time to screw them over instead of having a smooth transition. Like, I've seen that 100 times at this point. It's just so stupid. So I think you're doing this the right way, and I think this really would be the best case scenario for you, because seriously, it sounds like you deserve way better than these people. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep babysitting my brother just so my mom can go out every night and go partying? Because after I said no, she got super pissed off, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I still live at home because rent is insane where I live, and I'm trying to pay off some student loans. I help out around the house with dishes and laundry and just basic stuff. I also have a full-time job and a part-time side hustle, so my days are packed. Now, here's the issue. My mom had my little brother kind of late in life, and she's recently gotten super into going out to bars and clubs and having wine nights and that kind of thing. And I'm just thinking, cool, good for her, live your life. But she started treating me like her built-in babysitter. It started as the occasional Friday night, and then it was Fridays and Saturdays, then some weeknights. And now she'll just drop a text message that says, hey, I'm going out, dinner's in the fridge, and then be gone before I'm even home from work. No asking, no heads up. I just come home and surprise, surprise, it's homework, bath time, and bedtime stories all over again. Now, I love my brother. He is a sweet kid, but I'm not his parent, and I never agreed to be. Well, last weekend, I had plans with my friends for the first time in a month, and she told me that morning she needed me to watch my brother because she was going on a date. And you know what? I said no. no. And by the way, I was polite, but I was firm. And when I said this, she was pissed off, like full-on guilt-tripping mode. She said to me, "You live here for free. The least you could do is help me out." But I reminded her I already help out with the house, and she didn't even ask me. She just informed me. She ended up canceling her date and gave me the silent treatment for 2 days. Then she told me I was being selfish and that when she was my age, she already had 2 kids and didn't get to run off and have fun. But now I'm kind of feeling awful. I do live under her roof and I do want her to be happy, but I also feel like I'm being taken advantage of just because I'm convenient. So am I the jerk for saying no? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you are not the jerk here. This is insane behavior. Seriously, she's taking advantage of you being there and not even giving you proper notice. Because I'm like you, listen, if you give me enough notice, I can help out where I can. But the fact that this is literally every night and she's ignoring the fact that she has duties to her kid, like, dude, this is not okay and it's not your responsibility. So no, you're not the jerk, and I think the way your mom's acting is super entitled. Am I overreacting for being shocked when a boat party host asked me to pay for food, drinks, and boat fuel afterwards? Because right now I feel like I've been completely tricked, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friend, let's call him Jake for the sake of the story, invited me to a party on his friend's boat. I'd never met the guy before, but from what I do know about him, he is wealthy because he's a surgeon. I figured it would be a cool experience, so I decided to say yes. Now the boat was actually really nice. There were beers, seltzers, and some mid-shelf liquor. The host had ordered trays of food, namely wings, sliders, and fruit, etc., and even brought out a jet ski at one point. And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of made me feel like crap about myself just by how nice this guy really had it. Anyways, it was a great day, and we were out there for maybe about 4 or 5 hours. I had a few drinks, ate some food, I relaxed, and I met some people. And everything seemed super casual until we got back to the dock. That's when the host says to everyone, "Hey guys, can you just Venmo me $40 for the food, $35 for the drinks, $50 for gas, and $10 for the jet ski? That would be awesome." Now, I really thought he was joking, but everyone pulled out their phones like this was to be expected in some way. I then pulled Jake aside and I asked him what in the world was going on. And he then says to me, "I should have mentioned it, my bad." And it's like, yeah, no kidding, you really should have said something about that. And it's not even just the money though, it's just the way that it was handled. I would have been fine if I was told in advance, but springing it on people after the fun's been had is a really sleazy way of doing things, especially for a literal surgeon who owns a boat. If I had known this was basically a $150 group outing, I would not have gone along with it. I had like $100 to last me the rest of the weekend, which makes sense because I'm a college student, and now I feel like I'm stuck. Either I don't pay and I look like a leech, or I send what I can and still come off as weird. It's been a day now and the host is texting Jake when I'm going to pay, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I would not be paying any of this and I would be messaging the host directly. I would say, look, I didn't know anything about this. Jake literally did not say to me that this was a paid event, because if I'd known it was a paid event, I would not have even gone along with this. You would have stayed home and not gone to this stupid thing. Like, I would legitimately explain everything going on and be like, look, I'm really sorry, but I have no money. I'm a poor college student, man. Like, I wouldn't have gone if I'd known about this. And then I would leave it at that and then never listen to Jake ever again. Like, Jake's a moron for acting like this and not telling you in advance that, yeah, it's gonna cost some money. And in my opinion, I think Jake should be covering for you. Jake didn't give you the full explanation of what the host was actually doing here. And now you're getting screwed and it's like, wait a second, how is this fair for me? I didn't know about this ahead of time. I would have gone. So no, you're not overreacting, because the way Jake just completely left out information, you know, important information for like the entire situation, in my opinion, was completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my roommate move out after they broke our lease early and left me to figure everything else out by myself? Because right now I am incredibly pissed off. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I've been living with a roommate for almost 2 years. And back in March, we renewed our lease for another full year. Things were pretty normal. There was no major drama. We split rent and utilities evenly, and mostly we just did our own thing. Well, a few weeks ago, my roommate got a new job in another city, and it's like, cool, good for them. But they gave me 2 weeks notice that they were moving out and had already spoken to the landlord about getting their name off the lease. No plan, no subletter lined up, nothing. They basically just said, I figure you could cover things for a while until you find someone. Well, I told them that wasn't going to work for me. I didn't agree to live alone, and I definitely can't afford this place on my own, but they brushed it off and basically said I should be supportive of their big opportunity and that I'd figure something out. Well, fast forward to moving day, and they asked if I could help them carry furniture, load the U-Haul, clean up, etc. But you know what? I told them no. I said it didn't feel right helping out after the way they left me with everything. They then got really cold after that and told some of our mutual friends that I was being bitter and making their move more stressful out of spite. Now, some people are saying I should have just helped to be the bigger person and that it wouldn't have killed me to lift a few boxes. But others agree with me and say it was pretty bold of them to expect help after bailing. So, am I the jerk for refusing to help my roommate move out after they dumped the lease on me? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. I always love the fact that people who are like, oh yeah, you need to be the bigger person and help out. Those are the very people who probably, chances are, didn't help out in the first place at all. Like, they're literally trying to be like, oh yeah, you should be the bigger person. I can't believe you. And at the end, they're still not doing anything. So it's like, okay, you just wanted a virtue signal. Got it. You just wanted to take sides and be like, oh, I'm loyal to my friend. Be the bigger person and help them move, even though they're screwing you over. Because in my opinion, what the roommate's doing here is so unbelievably toxic. The least they could do is find someone else to take over while they're leaving. But instead, it kind of comes off as if they're just dropping everything and running to this new city. And it's like, cool, get a new job, do all that stuff, etc. But for this roommate to cut and run like that and not be like, okay, let me help you find somebody else, like that's insane behavior and I just would hate to have to deal with that. So no, of course you're not the jerk. And anyone who says you are, in my opinion, is completely delusional. My entitled cousin hired me to build a cake for her boyfriend's birthday, but after she picked it up, she's now refusing to pay for it, claiming that I never told her the price and that I'm now blindsiding her. And now, despite the fact that I did inform her well before I even started the cake, exactly the price I would be expecting, she's now going around telling everybody that I'm the jerk here. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I want to start off by saying that I bake cakes as a side gig. Nothing super fancy, but I've done cakes for birthdays, graduations, and stuff like that. People usually message me, and I give them a price, and then they pay me. Well, a few weeks ago, my 27-year-old cousin asked if I can make a red velvet 2-tier cake with cream cheese frosting for her boyfriend's birthday. She even sent a TikTok video and said I want it exactly like this. I told her it's going to be $120, and she said perfect. Now, I spent hours making it, and when she picked it up, she said it looked amazing, and then she left, and that was it. No payment or anything. Now, I waited a few days and sent a Venmo request, but she just completely ignored it. I even texted her a week later and asked nicely about the payment, and she just said to me, oh, I didn't think you were charging me. I thought it was a gift. Now, she ordered the cake, and I never said it was free. I even gave her a price, and she agreed. And now she's telling people I blindsided her and that I care more about money. I came here to share because I'm just so angry right now. All I wanted was to be paid for my time and ingredients, and instead I'm getting screwed over in a really bad way. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. Why is it that family always does this kind of crap? They're the people that step up and say, oh, it was a gift, or they try and demand like, oh, I want a discount. And it's like, dude, I can't give a discount. This is literally something I do on the side to pay for rent. And it does not matter that this is just a side gig. This is literally something you're doing for money, so guess what? They need to pay you. So hopefully they pay you for your work, because this is not an easy thing to do. And the fact that she's trying to lie and be like, oh yeah, you never told me the price. You're just trying to blindside me because you only care about money. Like, that whole narrative is so false and so toxic, it's not even funny. My boss freaked out when I told him I was putting my notice in for resignation, as she now literally just isn't accepting the fact that I'm leaving and almost wants me to stay longer despite the fact that I'm gone at the end of the month. And now I feel really guilty and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to get right to the point, I gave my boss a letter yesterday resigning from my position doing reception work. I cited the main reasons being that I want to have a shorter commute since my fiance and I are looking to purchase a home in our current community. I also noted that I need to have health and retirement benefits, two things that she does not provide. Lastly, I stated that I want to be closer to where my fiance and I are going to establish our lives together, as well as where we're going to start a family, etc. I've had to miss many family events or important events related to my fiance's work due to the commute, as well as the hours I work. These are certainly not the only reasons for leaving. However, I wanted to refrain from personal criticisms or from hurting feelings. I thought it would be best to list the things that she couldn't or wouldn't change just to keep me. She then asked if I would stay until they found a replacement, and I agreed. I figured that would be about 2 weeks, but today my coworker was making a schedule for July, and she was talking about my days, and I was so confused. I said I didn't intend on being here through July. I told her and my boss that I'm willing to stay through June 30th, and that I would help train any new hire, but I also reiterated that I felt giving 17 days notice is more than enough. Also, it's important to note that there are 3 other employees that do this exact job. Well, she then started to guilt me by saying she expected more, and that she's disappointed, and that she doesn't even want me to stay through mid-July now. So seriously, is my notice this unreasonable? Should I just leave now since I have no contractual obligation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your boss is being a complete jerk. She is seriously being so selfish. This is not your problem. You gave them a notice of when you would be leaving, and guess what? That's their problem to figure out. The fact that she's still not admitting that, hey, you're leaving on June 30th is insane in my opinion. She literally tried to be like, oh yeah, I don't even want you staying through mid-July. And it's like, hello, Earth to boss, I'm not staying that long. I'm gone at the end of the month. What are you doing? Like, she's only guilt-tripping you, by the way, because she doesn't want to find a replacement. She's too lazy to do it, and she doesn't want to take the time to do it, even though you said you would help train the person who would be replacing you. So no, you're not the jerk, and the fact that any of this is being pinned on you is absolutely insane. And if anything, let this be evidence that, yeah, you probably should get out of there, because I just really don't think there's any kind of longevity with this kind of boss. Am I the jerk for pretending I didn't know my friend was on a date when she literally dragged me along telling me that it was just going to be the two of us? Because right now she is incredibly upset with me, but I seriously don't think I did anything wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this just happened a few nights ago, and now she's acting weird about it, and I'm wondering if I messed up. So my friend, who I will call Emily for the sake of the story, asked me if I wanted to go to this ramen spot that we both love. She said to me, let's grab some dinner, I have some tea to spill. So I was like, cool, let's do it, girl night vibes. I even wore sweats and no makeup because I thought it was just gonna be us chilling and talking crap about people from high school just like we usually do. But when I get there, she was already sitting with this dude. She waves me over and goes, oh hey, this is Mark. I hope you don't mind, I told him to join. Which is like, okay, I guess. I went ahead and I sat down, but it was weird right away. Like, she was being flirty and kind of giggly with him, and I was just sitting there like the third wheel who didn't get the memo. I tried to keep conversation going and be polite, but I was also kind of annoyed. Like, if it's a date, just say it's a date. I would have dressed up a little bit or just said no altogether. Anyways, I started to suspect she invited me on purpose so it wouldn't feel too intense for her or something like that. So you know what? I just kind of leaned into it. I started talking to Mark more, asking him silly questions like, oh, what's your favorite dinosaur? And just being a little chaotic. Nothing mean, just not acting like it was a romantic setting, which made her super quiet after a while. After dinner, she texted me like, thanks for coming, but I think you kind of made things awkward. And I just said to her, oh, I didn't realize it was a date. You said you had tea to spill, not Tinder. Well, now she hasn't replied in 2 days, and our group chat is weirdly quiet. My other friend says I probably embarrassed her, and I should have just made an excuse to leave once I realized, but I kind of feel like I was upset. Like, I would not have come along if I knew I was going to be a prop in her soft launch. So truly, am I the jerk for pretending not to realize it was a date and making it awkward for some reason? Or is that on her for not telling me up front? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I can confidently say the original poster is not the jerk. Your friend is an idiot. What are they doing? Why would they invite you someplace and be like, ooh, I've got tea to spill, only for them to like pull a fast one and be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is gonna be a date for me and Mark. It's like, dude, what are you doing? If I had known this was a date, I definitely would not have come along. Because dude, I'm right there with you. There's no way I would stick around for that. I don't care what it is. I don't want to be the third wheel. That is so awkward. Good lord. And I'm sure Mark was feeling the awkwardness as well. He probably was like, oh cool, I get to go on a date with this one girl that seems kind of cool, only to see her friend also there tagging along in sweatpants and just not looking like they're dressed up for a date at all. Like, that's super awkward, and I don't blame you for being upset. So no, you are not the jerk. Emily's an idiot for what she did, and in my opinion, this is not your fault. An entitled jerk literally tries to get me to work for free, forcing me to nearly take him to court just so he could pay me for my work. But in the end, I got the last laugh, as this guy went out of business a few weeks later. Here's how it all went down. A long time ago, when I was first getting started in graphics, a company listed an ad looking for someone with my exact skills. Well, I applied, and the guy said he wanted some proof saying I needed to work for him, which now leads to showing him what I'm capable of. Now, this was a company wanting to make templates for sandblasting so that they could put logos on such things as glasses and stuff like that. The templates were produced on a large laser printer that melted holes in plastic sheeting to create the stencils. Now, the problem is that they could not figure out how to create a stencil in this process, but I figured out the problem in a matter of hours and produced 2 or 3 usable templates that could prove that yes, I'm capable for the job. Now, the owner gave me a list of items to create, but still refused to actually hire me. He then called me a couple of days later and said to return anything I had created with no pay. Well, I had a lawyer friend create a letter explaining my rates for personal work and how we would expedite it to court if he really wants to go this route. Well, to make a long story short, he ended up paying me for the work. About a week later, some girl calls and asked me to explain to her how I created the templates that I did. And I knew without asking that she was probably also working for him in the same way I was. But I told her simply, tell your boss to call me because he knows my rates. Well, I wish I'd been there when she got off the phone, because eventually his company went straight out of business a few weeks later. And I don't think there's ever been a better candidate for this to happen to. Dude, this is so toxic. I can't believe that we have yet another story of someone being like, oh, I need you to do this work, but no, I'm not going to pay you. Like, you even had to go as far as saying, look, I'll take you to court. Let's do this. If you want to go straight to a judge and figure this out, we can do that, baby. Or you can pay me for my work and then all of this goes away, buddy. Like, this guy's a scumbag for doing this. Like, this is so crazy to me. I will never understand why some people are like, oh yeah, you're going to work for free and you're going to like it. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I have bills to pay. I've got rent I'm trying to make. I've got groceries and medicine. There's no way I'm going to work for free and I don't care what it is. This is not a charity. This is business. And if you can't abide by that business, then guess what? That's your problem, not mine. So good for you for putting your foot down and not allowing this crap to happen, because this guy's a scumbag and he got exactly what he deserved. My toxic job is always demanding that I work through every vacation I ever receive. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally following the letter of the law and using all of my PTO throughout the rest of the year, leaving my toxic managers in a pinch where for the first time, they actually had to do their job. Here's how I did it. Okay, so this happened a couple years ago at my old job. This was a pretty demanding corporate gig where we were always juggling tight deadlines, constant emails, and way too many meetings that easily could have been Slack messages. Around early November, Human Resources sent out one of those all-staff emails with a bright red banner and an urgent tone. It read something like this: reminder, all unused PTO must be taken before December 31st. We will not be allowing rollovers this year. Please schedule your remaining days immediately or risk losing them all. And this was with no exceptions, no flexibility, and no consideration for project deadlines. Now, I wasn't one to take a ton of time off during the year, mostly because every time I tried, something urgent would come up and I would just get guilted into postponing it. So by November, I had 10 full days of paid time off just sitting there. And according to Human Resources' big red warning, I had about 6 weeks to use them. Now, naturally, I did what any burnt out, unappreciated worker would do. I opened the calendar and I booked myself off from December 18th to December 31st. 2 full weeks, right before New Year's, smack in the middle of the most chaotic time in our project cycle. A week later, my manager, let's call him Rob, came to me in a mild panic. Rob said to me, hey, I saw your PTO request and I was hoping we could shift that a little. December's going to be a critical time for the project and we really need all hands on deck. I then said to him, yeah, I get that, but HR literally just sent out that PTO deadline. If I don't use those days, then I lose them all. And I've already worked through enough vacations this year. He looked uncomfortable but couldn't argue with the logic. I even forwarded him the Human Resources email with a subject line saying, using my days as required. Well, he escalated to Human Resources and of course, they replied by saying, we understand that it may be inconvenient, but our PTO policy is final. Managers are responsible for planning around employee availability. And seriously, that reply felt like Christmas came early. So I prepped my team as best I could. I left detailed notes, and on December 18th, I logged out stress-free. While they were scrambling to hit deadlines, dealing with last-minute client requests and working late, I was sipping hot chocolate, watching Netflix, and actually enjoying my holiday season for once. When I came back in January, the project had been delivered, but only barely. The team was exhausted, mistakes had been made, and the post-mortem meeting was basically 45 minutes of finger-pointing, but no one dared say a word to me. After all, I was just following Human Resources rules. So the moral of this story is that if a company insists you follow the policy to the letter of the law, don't feel bad when you do, even if it means watching the ship catch fire from your cozy vacation cabin. Dude, this is like a dream. I dream of having that kind of moment because seriously, I've worked jobs where I've been underappreciated, and doing something like this would have felt amazing. And I think we've all been there to some degree where you're like the only person who gets stuff done, and you're always the one that's expected to make the sacrifice to get the project done. But it's like, dude, why am I the only one doing it? Why is no one else stepping up and being like, oh yeah, I'll work through vacation? Like, it's so frustrating, and I just know exactly where the original poster's coming from. So I completely understand when they're like, oh yeah, when I got that email, it was like Christmas was right here in front of me, because that would have been amazing to see. And it's so funny because these people and like these managers who are like, oh, we really need you around, we can't do this without you, somehow, despite all that guilt tripping, still get the project done. So in reality, they could always get it done, but they just don't want to do it themselves. They want you to stick around so they can run off and get their vacation. And it's like, dude, you're an awful manager. Why would you treat your employees like that? But regardless, good for you for getting that PTO off and showing these people exactly why they need to treat you better. And the fact that this fell all within the rules of the company, it just makes this entire situation all the more better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep babysitting my brother just so my mom can go out every night and go partying? Because After I said no, she got super pissed off. And now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I still live at home because rent is insane where I live, and I'm trying to pay off some student loans. I help out around the house with dishes and laundry and just basic stuff. I also have a full-time job and a part-time side hustle, so my days are packed. Now, here's the issue. My mom had my little brother kind of late in life, and she's recently gotten super into going out to bars and clubs and having wine nights and that kind of thing. And I'm just thinking, cool, good for her, live your life. But she started treating me like her built-in babysitter. It started as the occasional Friday night, and then it was Fridays and Saturdays, then some weeknights. And now she'll just drop a text message that says, hey, I'm going out, dinner's in the fridge, and then be gone before I'm even home from work. No asking, no heads up. I just come home and surprise, surprise, it's homework, bath time, and bedtime stories all over again. Now, I love my brother. He is a sweet kid, but I'm not his parent, and I never agreed to be. Well, last weekend, I had plans with my friends for the first time in a month, and she told me that morning she needed me to watch my brother because she was going on a date. And you know what? I said no. And by the way, I was polite, but I was firm. And when I said this, she was pissed off, like full-on guilt-tripping mode. She said to me, you live here for free. The least you could do is help me out. But I reminded her I already help out with the house, and she didn't even ask me. She just informed me. She ended up canceling her date and gave me the silent treatment for 2 days. Then she told me I was being selfish and that when she was my age, she already had 2 kids and didn't get to run off and have fun. But now I'm kind of feeling awful. I do live under her roof and I do want her to be happy, but I also feel like I'm being taken advantage of just because I'm convenient. So am I the jerk for saying no? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you are not the jerk here. This is insane behavior. Seriously, she's taking advantage of you being there and not even giving you proper notice. Because I'm like you, listen, if you give me enough notice, I can help out where I can. But the fact that this is literally every night and she's ignoring the fact that she has duties to her kid, like, dude, this is not okay and it's not your responsibility. So no, you're not the jerk, and I think the way your mom's acting is super entitled. Am I overreacting for being shocked when a boat party host asked me to pay for food, drinks, and boat fuel afterwards? Because right now I feel like I've been completely tricked, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friend, let's call him Jake for the sake of the story, invited me to a party on his friend's boat. I'd never met the guy before, but from what I do know about him, he is wealthy because he's a surgeon. I figured it would be a cool experience, so I decided to say yes. Now, the boat was actually really nice. There were beers, seltzers, and some mid-shelf liquor. The host had ordered trays of food, namely wings, sliders, and fruit, etc., and even brought out a jet ski at one point. And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of made me feel like crap about myself just by how nice this guy really had it. Anyways, it was a great day, and we were out there for maybe about 4 or 5 hours. I had a few drinks, ate some food, I relaxed, and I met some people. And everything seemed super casual until we got back to the dock. That's when the host says to everyone, hey guys, can you just Venmo me $40 for the food, $35 for the drinks, $50 for gas, and $10 for the jet ski? That would be awesome. Now, I really thought he was joking, but everyone pulled out their phones like this was to be expected in some way. I then pulled Jake aside and I asked him what in the world was going on. And he then says to me, I should have mentioned it, my bad. And it's like, yeah, no kidding, you really should have said something about that. And it's not even just the money though, it's just the way that it was handled. I would have been fine if I was told in advance, but springing it on people after the fun's been had is a really sleazy way of doing things, especially for a literal surgeon who owns a boat. If I had known this was basically a $150 group outing, I would not have gone along with it. I had like $100 to last me the rest of the weekend, which makes sense because I'm a college student, and now I feel like I'm stuck. Either I don't pay and I look like a leech, or I send what I can and still come off as weird. It's been a day now and the host is texting Jake when I'm going to pay, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I would not be paying any of this and I would be messaging the host directly. I would say, look, I didn't know anything about this. Jake literally did not say to me that this was a paid event, because if I'd known it was a paid event, I would not have even gone along with this. You would have stayed home and not gone to this stupid thing. Like, I would legitimately explain everything going on and be like, look, I'm really sorry, but I have no money. I'm a poor college student, man. Like, I wouldn't have gone if I'd known about this. And then I would leave it at that and then never listen to Jake ever again. Like, Jake's a moron for acting like this and not telling you in advance that, yeah, it's gonna cost some money. And in my opinion, I think Jake should be covering for you. Jake didn't give you the full explanation of what the host was actually doing here. And now you're getting screwed and it's like, wait a second, how is this fair for me? I didn't know about this ahead of time. I would have gone. So no, you're not overreacting, because the way Jake just completely left out information, you know, important information for like the entire situation, in my opinion, was completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my roommate move out after they broke our lease early and left me to figure everything else out by myself? Because right now I am incredibly pissed off. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I've been living with a roommate for almost 2 years. And back in March, we renewed our lease for another full year. Things were pretty normal. There was no major drama. We split rent and utilities evenly, and mostly we just did our own thing. Well, a few weeks ago, my roommate got a new job in another city, and it's like, cool, good for them. But they gave me 2 weeks notice that they were moving out and had already spoken to the landlord about getting their name off the lease. No plan, no subletter lined up, nothing. They basically just said, I figure you could cover things for a while until you find someone. Well, I told them that wasn't going to work for me. I didn't agree to live alone, and I definitely can't afford this place on my own, but they brushed it off and basically said I should be supportive of their big opportunity and that I'd figure something out. Well, fast forward to moving day, and they asked if I could help them carry furniture, load the U-Haul, clean up, etc. But you know what? I told them no. I said it didn't feel right helping out after the way they left me with everything. They then got really cold after that and told some of our mutual friends that I was being bitter and making their move more stressful out of spite. Now, some people are saying I should have just helped to be the bigger person and that it wouldn't have killed me to lift a few boxes. But others agree with me and say it was pretty bold of them to expect help after bailing. So, am I the jerk for refusing to help my roommate move out after they dumped the lease on me? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. I always love the fact that people who are like, oh yeah, you need to be the bigger person and help out. Those are the very people who probably, chances are, didn't help out in the first place at all. Like, they're literally trying to be like, oh yeah, you should be the bigger person. I can't believe you. And at the end, they're still not doing anything. So it's like, okay, you just wanted a virtue signal. Got it. You just wanted to take sides and be like, oh, I'm loyal to my friend. Be the bigger person and help them move, even though they're screwing you over. Because in my opinion, what the roommate's doing here is so unbelievably toxic. The least they could do is find someone else to take over while they're leaving. But instead, it kind of comes off as if they're just dropping everything and running to this new city. And it's like, cool, get a new job, do all that stuff, etc. But for this roommate to cut and run like that and not be like, okay, let me help you find somebody else, like that's insane behavior, and I just would hate to have to deal with that. So no, of course you're not the jerk. And anyone who says you are, in my opinion, is completely delusional. My entitled cousin hired me to build a cake for her boyfriend's birthday, but after she picked it up, she's now refusing to pay for it, claiming that I never told her the price and that I'm now blindsiding her. And now, despite the fact that I did inform her well before I even started the cake, exactly the price I would be expecting, she's now going around telling everybody that I'm the jerk here. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I want to start off by saying that I bake cakes as a side gig. Nothing super fancy, but I've done cakes for birthdays, graduations, and stuff like that. People usually message me and I give them a price and then they pay me. Well, a few weeks ago, my 27-year-old cousin asked if I can make a red velvet 2-tier cake with cream cheese frosting for her boyfriend's birthday. She even sent a TikTok video and said I want it exactly like this. I told her it's going to be $120 and she said perfect. Now, I spent hours making it, and when she picked it up, she said it looked amazing and then she left, and that was it. No payment or anything. Now, I waited a few days and sent a Venmo request, but she just completely ignored it. I even texted her a week later and asked nicely about the payment, and she just said to me, oh, I didn't think you were charging me. I thought it was a gift. Now, she ordered the cake and I never said it was free. I even gave her a price and she agreed. And now she's telling people I blindsided her and that I care more about money. I came here to share because I'm just so angry right now. All I wanted was to be paid for my time and ingredients, and instead I'm getting screwed over in a really bad way. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. Why is it that family always does this kind of crap? They're the people that step up and say, oh, it was a gift, or they try and demand like, oh, I want a discount. And it's like, dude, I can't give a discount. This is literally something I do on the side to pay for rent. And it does not matter that this is just a side gig. This is literally something you're doing for money, so guess what? They need to pay you. So hopefully they pay you for your work, because this is not an easy thing to do. And the fact that she's trying to lie and be like, oh yeah, you never told me the price. You're just trying to blindside me because you only care about money. Like, that whole narrative is so false and so toxic, it's not even funny. My boss freaked out when I told them I was putting my notice in for resignation, as she now literally just isn't accepting the fact that I'm leaving and almost wants me to stay longer despite the fact that I'm gone at the end of the month. And now I feel really guilty and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to get right to the point, I gave my boss a letter yesterday resigning from my position doing reception work. I cited the main reasons being that I want to have a shorter commute since my fiance and I are looking to purchase a home in our current community. I also noted that I need to have health and retirement benefits, two things that she does not provide. Lastly, I stated that I want to be closer to where my fiance and I are going to establish our lives together, as well as where we're going to start a family, etc. I've had to miss many family events or important events related to my fiance's work due to the commute, as well as the hours I work. These are certainly not the only reasons for leaving. However, I wanted to refrain from personal criticisms or from hurting feelings. I thought it would be best to list the the things that she couldn't or wouldn't change just to keep me. She then asked if I would stay until they found a replacement, and I agreed. I figured that would be about 2 weeks, but today my coworker was making a schedule for July, and she was talking about my days, and I was so confused. I said I didn't intend on being here through July. I told her and my boss that I am willing to stay through June 30th, and that I would help train any new hire, but I also reiterated that I felt giving 17 days notice is more than enough. Also, it's important to note that there are 3 other employees that do this exact job. Well, she then started to guilt me by saying she expected more, and that she's disappointed, and that she doesn't even want me to stay through mid-July now. So seriously, is my notice unreasonable? Should I just leave now since I have no contractual obligation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your boss is being a complete jerk. She is seriously being so selfish. This is not your problem. You gave them a notice of when you would be leaving, and guess what? That's their problem to figure out. The fact that she's still not admitting that, hey, you're leaving on June 30th is insane in my opinion. She literally tried to be like, oh yeah, I don't even want you staying through mid-July. And it's like, hello, Earth to boss, I'm not staying that long. I'm gone at the end of the month. What are you doing? Like, she's only guilt tripping you, by the way, because she doesn't want to find a replacement. She's too lazy to do it, and she doesn't want to take the time to do it, even though you said you would help train the person who would be replacing you. So no, you're not the jerk, and the fact that any of this is being pinned on you is absolutely insane. And if anything, let this be evidence that yeah, you probably should get out of there, because I just really don't think there's any kind of longevity with this kind of boss. Am I the jerk for pretending I didn't know my friend was on a date when she literally dragged me along telling me that it was just gonna be the 2 of us? Because right now she is incredibly upset with me, but I seriously don't think I did anything wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this just happened a few nights ago, and now she's acting weird about it, and I'm wondering if I messed up. So my friend, who I will call Emily for the sake of the story, asked me if I wanted to go to this ramen spot that we both love. She said to me, let's grab some dinner, I have some tea to spill. So I was like, cool, let's do it, girl night vibes. I even wore sweats and no makeup because I thought it was just gonna be us chilling and talking crap about people from high school just like we usually do. But when I get there, she was already sitting with this dude. She waves me over and goes, oh hey, this is Mark. I hope you don't mind, I told him to join. Which is like, okay, I guess. I went ahead and I sat down, but it was weird right away. Like, she was being flirty and kind of giggly with him, and I was just sitting there like the third wheel who didn't get the memo. I tried to keep conversation going and be polite, but I was also kind of annoyed. Like, if it's a date, just say it's a date. I would have dressed up a little bit or just said no altogether. Anyways, I started to suspect she invited me on purpose so it wouldn't feel too intense for her or something like that. So you know what? I just kind of leaned into it. I started talking to Mark more, asking him silly questions like, oh, what's your favorite dinosaur? And just being a little chaotic. Nothing mean, just not acting like it was a romantic setting, which made her super quiet after a while. After dinner, she texted me like, thanks for coming, but I think you kind of made things awkward. And I just said to her, oh, I didn't realize it was a date. You said you had tea to spill, not Tinder. Well, now she hasn't replied in 2 days, and our group chat is weirdly quiet. My other friend says I probably embarrassed her, and I should have just made an excuse to leave once I realized, but I kind of feel like I was upset. Like, I would not have come along if I knew I was going to be a prop in her soft launch. So truly, am I the jerk for pretending not to realize it was a date and making it awkward for some reason? Or is that on her for not telling me up front? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I can confidently say the original poster is not the jerk. Your friend is an idiot. What are they doing? Why would they invite you someplace and be like, ooh, I've got tea to spill, only for them to like pull a fast one and be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is gonna be a date for me and Mark. It's like, dude, what are you doing? If I had known this was a date, I definitely would not have come along. Because dude, I'm right there with you. There's no way I would stick around for that. I don't care what it is. I don't want to be the third wheel. That is so awkward. Good Lord. And I'm sure Mark was feeling the awkwardness as well. He probably was like, oh cool, I get to go on a date with this one girl that seems kind of cool. Only to see her friend also there tagging along in sweatpants and just not looking like they're dressed up for a date at all. Like, that's super awkward, and I don't blame you for being upset. So no, you are not the jerk. Emily's an idiot for what she did, and in my opinion, this is not your fault. An entitled jerk literally tries to get me to work for free, forcing me to nearly take him to court just so he could pay me for my work. But in the end, I got the last laugh, as this guy went out of business a few weeks later. Here's how it all went down. A long time ago, when I was first getting started in graphics, a company listed an ad looking for someone with my exact skills. Well, I applied, and the guy said he wanted some proof saying I needed to work for him, which now leads to showing him what I'm capable of. Now, this was a company wanting to make templates for sandblasting so that they could put logos on such things as glasses and stuff like that. The templates were produced on a large laser printer that melted holes in plastic sheeting to create the stencils. Now, the problem is that they could not figure out how to create a stencil in this process, but I figured out the problem in a matter of hours and produced 2 or 3 usable templates that could prove that yes, I'm capable capable for the job. Now, the owner gave me a list of items to create, but still refused to actually hire me. He then called me a couple of days later and said to return anything I had created with no pay. Well, I had a lawyer friend create a letter explaining my rates for personal work and how we would expedite it to court if he really wants to go this route. Well, to make a long story short, he ended up paying me for the work. About a week later, some girl calls and asked me to explain to her how I created the templates that I did. And I knew without asking that she was probably also working for him in the same way I was. But I told her simply, tell your boss to call me because he knows my rates. Well, I wish I'd been there when she got off the phone because eventually his company went straight out of business a few weeks later. And I don't think there's ever been a better candidate for this to happen to. Dude, this is so toxic. I can't believe that we have yet another story of someone being like, oh, I need you to do this work, but no, I'm not going to pay you. Like, you even had to go as far as saying, look, I'll take you to court. Let's do this. If you want to go straight to a judge and figure this out, we can do that, baby. Or you can pay me for my work and then all of this goes away, buddy. Like, this guy's a scumbag for doing this. Like, this is so crazy to me. I will never understand why some people are like, oh yeah, you're going to work for free and you're going to like it. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I have bills to pay. I've got rent I'm trying to make. I've got groceries and medicine. There's no way I'm going to work for free and I don't care what it is. This is not a charity. This is business. And if you can't abide by that business, then guess what? That's your problem, not mine. So good for you for putting your foot down and not allowing this crap to happen, because this guy's a scumbag and he got exactly what he deserved. My entitled, toxic former boss fired me out of nowhere all because he thought I was an easy target. But thankfully, karma was on my side because eventually I got hired and promoted enough where I became his boss, returning the favor towards him in a way that he truly will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so back in the 90s, I started in a basement call center job, and it was legit, but it was also incredibly crappy. Let's call this company XYZ. Now, my boss, who I'll call Ernie for the sake of the story, was just promoted and felt he had something to prove. I was one of the younger staff at around 20 years old or so, and he thought I would be an easy target for him to pick on. He would threaten to write me up for nothing, but would then get mad because I didn't react or seem scared of him. One day I came to work only for him to pull me aside and tell me that I was fired. I asked him for what reason, and his exact words were to say, well, because you sound like a 12-year-old on the phone. So I thought to myself, okay, cool. I'm happy to leave because him and XYZ Corporation and the work are just beyond awful. Well, not long afterwards, I get hired for another contact center. This one was way more professional, well-lit, well-maintained building with lots of effort to make employees feel great coming into work. And yes, there are some call centers that are actually fantastic workplaces. Now, I thrive there, and I'm quickly promoted, and the company even invested in specialized training to skill up my credentials. I was highly respected, and I made a good name for myself. And then my moment finally came. I was approached by my manager and another manager, who we will call Paul for the sake of the story. And Paul managed the overflow work that we contracted out to other centers. He kept an eye on them to ensure they provided the same quality of service that our company offered. And this is where they tell me they have a special assignment for me. Paul needs someone to cover him while on vacation because one of the new vendors we contracted was launching new business on our behalf. Paul wants me to be there every day for the next 2 weeks to ensure a smooth launch and make sure we keep the other company accountable. And I'll give you one guess as to who the new vendor company was. Well, if you guess XYZ company, you would be absolutely right. Paul even mentions that my contact on site is a manager by the name of Ernie, and I think to myself, oh, good old Ernie was still there. I thought it best to be upfront with my manager and Paul and let them know about my history with Ernie and XYZ. I even shared the reason Ernie fired me. But Paul smiled and just asked, well, can you remain professional? And I assured him that I absolutely would. Paul smiled larger, and then he said that you are still my choice to fill in for me. I meet Paul over at XYZ, and he says, walk behind me as I enter. Now, he has a quirky smile on his face, so I just go along with it. And it's right about now that I knew that things were definitely about to get interesting. Paul walks up and shakes the hand of Ernie, and he says, Ernie, I'm excited about this project, but I have to be away, so I have someone who is going to step in for me. He then turns to me, so I step forward. Ernie has immediate awareness. He remembers me. I say to him, hello, Ernie, it's nice to see you again. And I say this in my most professional voice possible. Paul then says, oh, good, you know each other already. Ernie, this person is my eyes and ears for the next 2 weeks, and what she says goes. She speaks for me, and she will be sending daily reports. Do you got it? And I swear Paul was having so much fun with this because all Ernie could do was only nod. And I'm not sure if it was because of the shock in learning that he would be reporting to me. Now, on to the petty revenge. I knew that Ernie was expecting that I would be on a power trip because that is what he does, but I had something far more fun in mind. For the first week, I was nice and pleasant even with all of the employees. I gave them positive feedback, and I would do this when Ernie was around and ask him if he agreed with my positive feedback, and he would trip over himself just to agree with me. And I did this knowing that this jerk would never give compliments limits to his staff generally. I also knew Ernie hated break times for staff, so I would regularly watch the clock and I would wait until Ernie was far enough away where I would need to raise my voice conveniently for staff to hear, and I would ask Ernie, "Looks like it's break time. Do you agree that staff should prepare their phones to go on break?" Well, he couldn't disagree and make the client look bad, so everyone just got their breaks. The staff loved me and only had good things to say about me, and I could tell that Ernie was starting to get annoyed. On the second week, I started asking Ernie to run through the reports on a daily basis, and I was pleasant but firm on my expectations. I would ask him questions, and then I would just look at him when he answered and just shake my head. I wouldn't say anything. I would just ask him to move on to the next report. And I saw and heard the doubt creeping into his responses. By the third day that week, he was starting to ask me questions because he doubted his own answers. After he attempted to explain another report, I just said to him, "You know what, I've heard enough." And then I just walked away. Now, he wasn't saying anything wrong, and frankly, I could have just read the report myself, but it was fun to keep him just destabilized enough that he would squirm and look really uncomfortable. On my last day, Ernie asked me how I felt the launch went and what I had been putting into my reports to Paul, but I simply replied by saying, "Well, what do I know? I only sound like a 12-year-old on the phone." And then I just walked out. Fast forward, and I found out about a year later that XYZ closed and Ernie was out of work. I was then promoted and ended up in charge of my department. I never did hear about Ernie again, but it was fun to play petty psychological games with him. But the lesson that really sticks with me is that you need to treat people well, because you never know if any of them will cross your path again and possibly be your boss. Oh man, this is like the dream scenario, right? Your former boss fires you because they simply just don't like you, and then you turn around and eventually become their boss. Like, that is amazing. Like, that's a fantasy come true if there's ever been one, because that would be an amazing experience. And honestly, I love the fact that you really did get the last laugh. That ending line you said to him of like, "Oh, well, what do I know? I just sound like a 12-year-old on the phone." Like, that is brilliant. That is so good, dude. So good for you for getting back at this boss, because he sounds like a giant piece of garbage. Because in my opinion, he deserved way worse than what you gave him, because his behavior absolutely deserved to be punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My hoarder mother-in-law always wants my partner and I to visit, but I simply cannot stand being in my in-laws' house. And now they're inviting us over once again, and I honestly now feel so stuck because I just don't know how to navigate this without insulting someone. Here's what's going on. So my mother-in-law, who is a hoarder, always wants my partner and I to visit, but I just cannot stand being in my in-laws' house. It's not dirty per se, in the sense that there is not animal feces and literal garbage everywhere, but it is just an insane amount of stuff for one house. When you're walking through a 3,000 square foot house and it's like going through a corn maze, that's when you know there's way too many things in this house. Ever since my partner and I have been together, we have never spent a single Thanksgiving or Christmas together because his mother's house is so bad, and because there's just no space for us to stay, which means there's no privacy. We don't want to invite the criticism that we spend holidays with only my family but not his, so we just spend them apart. I remember the first time I ever visited. The utter fury that I had with my partner for not warning me about the hoarding almost ended our relationship right at the beginning. That weekend that I stayed was honestly one of the worst experiences that I've ever had to endure. To give a short summary of the experience, I slept in a twin bed while he slept next to me on the floor on a mattress pad, because even though other bedrooms existed, they were so full of things that they were just completely unusable. Even the room that we stayed in was so crammed full of stuff that there was literally nowhere to put our bags. Additionally, even though there were 3.5 bathrooms in the house, only about half of them were usable. The only usable full bath is off the master suite. It made for an awkward first night, as I usually shower right before I go to bed, but when I asked where I could shower, my partner told me that I would have to wait till the next day because the only shower was the one off the master bedroom. If it hadn't been almost 11 o'clock p.m. and not wanting to insult my mother-in-law the day we met, I would have left right then to find a hotel. With the 4th of July coming up, she wants us to come up and visit along with my partner's siblings and their significant others. And you know what? It's getting harder and harder to put her off. So my question is this: how do we explain to her and help her in a way that she will understand that while we love her, we won't be able to stay with her unless she makes room for us? Now, for some additional context, my partner, his siblings, and my father-in-law all know that her behavior around all of these objects is not normal. They've tried talking to her about going to therapy, and they've discussed with her that she cannot value all these things more than her own family and still be upset when her family doesn't want to visit overnight because of them. She just doesn't see the issue because all the stuff is various memories to her. To the outside person, it might be a random book, but to her, it would be a beloved story, or it would be one from the book club for 2 months that she had fun discussing, and the list goes on and on. So honestly, how do I navigate this situation situation with my mother-in-law because right now we're at a complete loss and we really don't know what to do. Oh man, there is no way in the world I would ever spend the night there ever again. Like seriously, just because there's not like crap and like all this other garbage all over the place doesn't mean that place is sanitary at all, because you know for a fact she's not cleaning off any of that stuff and it's just collecting dust and God knows what else. Now for me, and this is just my opinion, I think the best way to go about doing this is just being honest with her. You can say something like, hey, we will come and visit, but we are getting a hotel. There's no room in your house, there's way too many things, and we're not sleeping on the floor. Like that, in my opinion, is a great compromise, and I just can't understand why anyone would be like, no, you can't do that. Because seriously, there's no room to sleep anywhere. There's no room for anyone to use the bathroom. It's not fair for you or anybody else who's expected to come and visit. And if they're not going to accommodate you being there, then guess what? You don't have to be there, in my opinion. So yeah, this really could be an easy conversation, in my opinion, because this is just completely obnoxious. And the fact that your mother-in-law is not seeing this is, in my opinion, completely her problem and not yours. Am I the jerk for not helping my broke friend? All because she got a tattoo for herself instead of buying food like she said she desperately needed. Here's what's happening. So one of my friends has been complaining about money a lot recently, and it's gotten to the point where 2 days ago, she said that she was so broke, she wasn't able to afford to eat and was skipping whole days worth of eating because she just had no food. I felt sympathy because I've struggled a lot with finances. I still do a little bit, but not as badly as I used to. And since I'm doing okay enough right now, I offer to help her out with the food. I do a budgeting plan with my meals and meal prep where I use these compartment containers and I'll make 10 portions of 3 different meals every 2 weeks. And I rotate the menu based on what's on sale. And with that, I then put them into my deep freezer. I have ADHD and this works really well for me. I have a bit of extra meat stock at the moment because I don't always eat all the prepared trays before I make the next batch, since I always do it every 2 weeks. I have around 25 extra meals in my freezer right now. So since I have extra, I was originally just gonna not meal prep at the start of next week, but instead, I decided to offer to drop my friend off some of my surplus so she has something to eat. I was gonna drop it off today after work, but right when I was getting off work, I was watching Snapchat stories and I saw that she posted one. Well, this is when I found out that she went and got a tattoo today as part of a Friday the 13th flash sale. I'm familiar with the artist who did the tattoo because I recognized their flash from their Instagram. I mean, I was considering going in for one, but I didn't do it because I don't really have the extra money right now. They're also all pre-priced prices, and that one is $180. Now, I don't know why, but it kind of pissed me off because she literally just told me how she is so broke that she couldn't afford to eat, and yet despite all that, she was still able to pay for a tattoo. When I was struggling financially, I definitely didn't get tattoos. Well, I messaged her about it, and I asked about how she was able to afford a tattoo, and she basically just said, oh, I'm always able to scrounge up cash for new tattoos. Well, when I heard that, I then told her that I'm not bringing her those meals because if she has enough money for a new tattoo, she must not be that desperate. Well, when I said that, she freaked out on me and called me a jerk and said I was being classist and that poor people are allowed to have nice things, which I do agree with, but I feel like it doesn't apply to this situation. But now I feel like a jerk and my friend is mad at me. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk here. Your friend is clearly taking advantage of you and that's not fair. That really is not fair for you because you're trying to be kind to them. You're literally offering them free food when they could have easily used that $180 to get groceries for themselves. Like, what are they doing? They have their priorities completely mixed up. And sure, poor people can have nice things as well, but if you're choosing a tattoo over feeding yourself, then you have your priorities mixed up and you're taking advantage of people. And in my opinion, that's exactly what's going on here. An entitled customer thinks that just because he shops here a lot somehow means that he can spend as much time as he wants shopping past our closing time. And I'm honestly so sick of customers like this because it is super frustrating. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so we've all had those customers who come in pretty close to when we're closing up the shop. I'm also pretty sure that we've had those people who think that they have all the time in the world to shop just because they made it in the store before the doors shut. However, this is not the case. If you're a couple minutes past closing, that's usually fine, but it's not when you're planning on spending another 15 minutes or longer. So around 5 minutes to closing time at the store I work at, there was still one customer shopping with a grocery cart. He is a regular customer. The 15-minute and 5-minute closing announcements had been done, and when we do the 5-minute announcement, we politely ask that all customers still in the store bring up their items so that we can finish up our closing procedures and go home. Now, usually us cashiers aren't too bad about late shoppers who are cutting it close, but it was really annoying to see someone with a full cart still strolling around. The time we closed came around, and we had to do the announcement where we said, we're officially closed and please bring your items up to the front. But guess what? This guy just kept walking around. The people in grocery remind him that we were closing, and that he could come back tomorrow to get the last things he was missing. But you know what? He just completely ignored them. Eventually, my coworker Until told the man that we were closed and that she would ring his groceries through. He then turned to her and said, "Do you know how much money I spend at your store?" She replied by saying, "I understand, but we are still closed, and we have to ask you to pay for the groceries that you have now and come back tomorrow." Now, thankfully, the man finally went through her till, though he was still pretty annoyed that he had been asked to leave. He complained a bit more, but my coworker kindly explained that when we're closed, we have a couple more things that need to be done after all the customers are out, and we unfortunately will not be paid overtime. Okay, I relate to this because I used to work in the restaurant industry, and holy crap, when people would walk in right as we're about to close the kitchen, that would be the most frustrating thing on planet Earth, dude. Seriously, why'd you come in 10 minutes before we're closing? And I had a crappy manager who literally would be like, "Oh yeah, we've got to honor this customer." And then the customer sticks around for 40 more minutes, and it's like, oh my god, I now get to stay late because of these selfish people. That is so frustrating. So yeah, I've definitely been there, and I'm sure some of the people who are listening have been there as well, because this kind of behavior is super entitled. Am I overreacting for being annoyed when a friend's dinner party suddenly turned into a group bill that I wasn't expecting? Because now I'm expected to pay over $100 for a Saturday dinner that honestly wasn't even that good. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. A friend of mine invited me to what I thought was a casual dinner at their place last weekend. When I arrived, there were about 10 people there, and they ordered catering from a nice restaurant. Multiple courses, wine pairings, the whole deal. And you know what? I figured my friend was just being generous since they recently got a promotion. After dessert, the host announced, "Okay everyone, if you could Venmo me for the food and wine, that would be great." And the total came out to about $100. And you know what? I was completely blindsided. Nobody had mentioned this was a split check situation. And sure, while the meal was nice, I would not have agreed to spend $100 on a random Saturday dinner if I had known. When I quietly asked my friend about it later, they shrugged and said, "Oh yeah, we always split costs for these things. I thought you knew." But this was never discussed beforehand. I'm not broke, but I do budget carefully. And now I'm stuck either paying for a fancy meal I didn't choose or looking like a freeloader. And ever since then, the host has texted the group chat with a payment reminder. So am I overreacting for feeling put off by all of this? To me, if you're hosting something with costs involved, that should be clear up front, not sprung on guests after they've already enjoyed and consumed everything. What should I do? Dude, I don't blame you for being pissed off because I know for a fact I would be furious. Seriously, why on earth will they not tell you ahead of time that yeah, this costs money? Why not just make that abundantly clear so they know who wants to be there and who just can't afford that? Because I'm like the original poster, I'm not poor, but I definitely have a budget. And if this is not in my budget, then it's gonna be a struggle for the rest of the month. So yeah, I don't blame you for getting pissed off, and hopefully this gets worked out, because getting this sprung on you at the last second is not fair in the slightest. Am I the jerk for renting an apartment without telling my parents, even though they all really depend on me emotionally? Because right now they're calling me a traitor, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I recently rented an apartment 6 minutes from my parents' house. I didn't tell them beforehand, and I just told them after everything was signed. And now they're saying I betrayed them. For context, I have a full-time job as a civil servant in IT, and trust me, it's not nearly as chill as people assume. I'm graduating college this year, and I make enough to support myself comfortably. And you know what? I rented this place because I'm really sick, medically sick. A few days ago, I got test results showing my stress system has collapsed from chronic stress. My doctor said if I keep living this way, I'll start experiencing symptoms similar to menopause by 25, and that really scared me. Life at home is intense. There are daily fights, no privacy, no space to study or relax. My dad sleeps on the floor because there aren't enough beds. I'm not allowed to play games, talk to friends on the phone, or even use my computer freely. And everything must be turned off by 9 or 10 o'clock p.m. They watch my screen, they monitor everything, and after a stalker situation and finding out I had an American friend, they doubled down on controlling me. My mom has a condition where she gets seizures at night when she's under stress, and I'm the only one who stays calm enough to help her because my dad panics and rocks her, and my sister just cries and hugs her. So yes, I know they depend on me emotionally, but the doctor said it's a lifelong condition and not fatal. We've tried to keep the peace at home, but nothing really works. I mean, the stress is constant. So I made a choice and I found a nice and quiet place nearby. Now, I thought I was helping everyone because they wouldn't need to pay for my health costs anymore. My dad could take my bed, my sister could use my room to study, and I stayed close by just in case they needed me. But when I told them, they cried, they yelled, saying that I was a traitor and ungrateful. That if I really cared, I would have asked their permission first. They said I need to break the lease or they'll never speak to me again, and that I will turn my whole extended family against me, including my elderly grandparents who don't have much time left. And now I'm second-guessing everything. Was I wrong for acting fast and not involving them in the decision? Was it cruel to do it without asking, even though it's my life, my money, and my health health at risk. So seriously, am I the jerk for renting an apartment without their input, even if it means finally being able to breathe for the first time in my life? Because right now I feel like I ruined everything and I just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is an awful situation and I'm so glad you moved out. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your parents are incredibly emotionally controlling and very manipulative, and they are literally only guilt-tripping you so you will stick around and keep running their life basically. The original poster even goes on to say that their mom faked a seizure just so they would let them into their new apartment, and then they dragged her out of the apartment, forcing the police to show up and basically intervene. And it's like, dude, if that's not enough evidence to be like, yeah, these people are crazy, then I just don't know what else is. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, this is a really good step in the right direction, because your parents sound absolutely insane. Am I the jerk in the way I responded to my ex-husband? Simply because this guy was awful towards me while we were married. Here's what's going on. My ex-husband and I divorced back in 2015, and it was finalized after my youngest was born at around 2017. Now, to be clear, he is a father to both of my boys, even though he denied paternity to my youngest child even after a DNA test showed that he was the father. He was emotionally, verbally, and financially awful towards me throughout our entire marriage. After the divorce was finalized, his parental rights were terminated voluntarily due to chronic issues with homelessness and lack of treatment for his gambling and alcohol addictions. And part of the court order that went with his termination of his rights was that we were not to contact each other. Post-divorce, he had 2 other children, both boys, with another woman, and he reached out to me a few days ago and texted the following. He said to me, "Hey, how are the boys? If they ever want to see their brothers, just let me know. I have them on my days off." Well, my response to him was that if my boys wanted to see their brothers, I would go through their mother. I have a relatively friendly relationship with her, and the boys have met twice. Well, his response back to me was that I was rude and that my answer was uncalled for and that he had done nothing to deserve it. Now, to be clear, our eldest is in therapy because of him and the trauma surrounding his dad's awful treatment towards me. Since then, I've blocked his number, which I thought I had after we were done with court, but some people are saying that I just should have just ignored him. So am I the jerk in how I responded? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, I think someone in the comment section said it best, because they said, no, you're not the jerk, but also you should probably mute them instead of block them. Like that way you can have a document of like him contacting you, and I 100% have to agree with that. And it's also worth noting that if you're not supposed to contact each other, then it's probably best to like go the route of muting him and just not responding. Because in the end, this guy's the one that broke the court order and not you. And I would hate for you to get in trouble for something that he did. But either way, I think your response was pretty level-headed, even though this guy really is a piece of garbage. My toxic, idiotic managers demand that I don't ask any questions at my job, even going as far as saying that we can't talk to our other coworkers in other departments just to fix any issues in a timely manner. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally letting everything fall apart, leaving my manager on the chopping block for all of the higher-ups. And I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's how it went down. Okay, a new policy at work is that we can't talk to coworkers in other departments, and we are not allowed to fix their mistakes. If there's a math problem or a typo, or we can't open an attachment, well, guess what? Nothing can be done about it. Instead, we have to go to our manager, who then goes to their manager, who goes to the coworker, and then the process is reversed. Oh, and by the way, we're all in different time zones. Some people work in Hawaii and others in Beijing. Some managers' English is so bad that you literally cannot understand them. 12 hours is the average time to get a math error corrected. Like, for example, I might mention on a specific chart that something is wrong, and then I've got to wait forever just for it to get corrected. Seriously, this was the nature of a 14-hour delay last week, and I was told it was close enough. Mind you, we do precision work. The managers then told us to stop asking questions because it delays projects. Just go with your gut. If it's wrong, it's not coming back on the team. Use the figures you're given. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure, Jan. We had a big complex project and the documentation we received was absolute garbage. I pointed out a specific problem in the document, something contradictory, and requested a meeting with someone in that department to discuss it. But during the team meeting, I was called out in front of my peers for asking needless questions. And it's like, okay, screw you. The manager decided to take a few days vacation right as we finished and then prepared to start another urgent project. We had multiple questions that literally stalled the project, but it never floated to the top of the punch bowl at this party. And that's because the unthinkable happened. The big complex project was kicked back for doing the very question I raised in the meeting. The email we got said clearly the team didn't understand, so why didn't you go over it? The documentation is not clear on this matter, and someone should have just raised the issue instead of just bumbling ahead. And you know what? It was beautiful to read the email chain chewing their butts out, knowing my boss wasn't there to conceal this epic mess up. The team knowing how bad management failed, while also vindicating me, is just icing on the cake. A couple of coworkers reached out to me thanking me for for forcing the issue in the meeting because this cannot come back on us. Well, the higher-ups are pissed, and the entire project had to be reworked, adding 2 days to that while the new project is stalled. My manager is back from their vacation, and I've never been more excited to attend a Monday morning stand-up meeting. I only hope they checked their email this weekend and it ruined their vacation. But then again, if only we were allowed to ask questions, then maybe this all could have been avoided. Oh my gosh, this is so dumb. Imagine working at a job where they're like, stop asking questions. Questions will be met with punishment, and no, you can't talk to your other coworkers. Like, dude, this is the most ineffective way to handle any kind of business. Like, seriously, what's going on here? This is so dumb. You literally are telling me that I can't be like, okay, the math is completely wrong here. Nothing makes sense, and this is ruining my part of the job. Like, if my job depended on someone else doing their job correctly, you better believe I'm gonna say something to that person. I'm gonna tell them immediately they need to get their crap together because it's affecting my job. So seriously, this is some beautiful karma that your manager absolutely deserved, because the fact that they wanted to keep you quiet about this is the very reason it all fell apart. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled job allows smokers to get more breaks than anybody else, so I decided to maliciously comply by quite literally exposing the fact that these people are not doing their job, leaving me to pick up the pieces while they literally do nothing. Here's what happened. Okay, so this goes back to when I worked for a large telecommunications company as a call center supervisor. Most of my peers were smokers, and with the way the schedules were set up, there were large chunks of the day where only 2 or 3 of us were on at the same time. Our manager insisted one of us always be visible on the call center floor while also performing our regular duties: performance reviews, call monitoring, escalations, and weekly one-on-ones with our team. I also had the largest team with consistently over 20 people reporting to me. Well, all of this was to set the stage. I noticed that I seemed to be the only supervisor actually doing my time being visible, but every time I tried to carve out an hour or 2 for the rest of my job, they were always out smoking, and it got to the point that I was working after hours just to stay caught up. I brought it up to my manager thinking that she would discreetly monitor it, but you know what? She didn't. Instead, in a supervisor meeting, she announced to the entire group that she knows we have a busy job, and sometimes it seems imbalanced, which is an understatement. But then she said that really the smokers were just taking their lunch hour in short smoke break intervals instead, so it all worked out in the end. So I thought to myself, cool, okay, we can do that. The next day, I came to work with a pack of cigarettes in my bag ready to go. The second I saw one of my peers going out to smoke, I went out with them, timing the breaks with a lit cigarette in my hand the entire time. And you know what? It was a revolving door. They were going out to smoke almost more than once an hour, and usually out there for a solid 20 minutes each. By the end of the first day of doing this, I had timed one of my supervisors at nearly 2 hours worth of smoke breaks, and even I well exceeded my own lunch hour. So I started doing it every single day. I packed small snacks to munch while I was outside instead of taking my entire lunch. And one day my manager saw me heading out and seemed surprised, but I just shrugged and said, yeah, I decided to start smoking. And you know what? She couldn't say anything because if she timed mine, she would have to time theirs as well. This went on for roughly a month before she announces to our management team that we would be required to start coordinating breaks among the team just to make sure that we had coverage. Well, I gained not only a well-earned smugness from ruining things for all my lazy peers, but also a bit of relief from constantly floor walking, because trust me, it was starting to grate on my skin. Man, I love this so much because you've done exactly what I think all of us have wanted to do, where you shut down a loophole that our coworkers have found a way that they can just not do their job, leaving you with the short end of the stick. Like, I know for a fact the second I have to stay after and work extra just to keep up, all because my coworkers aren't doing their job, like that would have driven me insane, and I absolutely would have said something or done something like this similar. So good for you for shutting this down, because these people absolutely suck. An entitled teenager at Target literally cuts me in line right as I'm checking out to get my stuff and leave, leaving me very frustrated at this incredibly immature behavior. Here's how it all went down. So I guess we can all be entitled as teenagers, as that goes with the territory, but I can honestly say that what just happened at Target is not something I did as a teenager. Now, I usually don't care for the in-person shopping experience at Target, but I needed to get a couple of things and figured, well, okay, I guess I'll go there. As usual, there are not enough registers open, and I figured the express lane to be my best bet. On my way to the registers, I passed some teenage girls I saw earlier. They were all wearing short shorts with their butt cheeks hanging out. No judgment, as that's what's popular, and I wore them too in the early 90s. There can be a bit of false confidence at that age, and they were pulling the backs of their shorts down to unwedge from their butts and I assume cover the butt cheeks. Again, I totally did the same as a teenager. register. As I was standing in line, I noticed a couple of girls were already checking out, and the other girls came behind me to wait in line. Then they decided to skip the line and went to the register their friends were at. The people in front of me, as they were next in line for the register, said something to each other about it, and I figured as long as the teens were all at the one register, I wouldn't bother saying anything. The people in front of me went to the next open register, and then I was next. Finally, another register opened, and as I started walking towards it, one of the teens went right in front of me and started using it. When I saw this, I said, "Excuse me, but I was next." The teenage girl looked at me and said, "Oh, it's okay, I'm with them," pointing to her friends. I said to her, "No, it's not, you skipped the line." She looked at me and said, "It's okay, you can wait." But I responded back by saying, "No, that's not okay, what you're doing is rude." But she just responded back by saying, "Well, you can just wait." Now at this point, she is scanning her item, and the target person in charge of the registers is just standing there. So I figured I would just let it go. Then when she was done, she turned around with a huge grin on her face and said, "Thanks for waiting." But I responded back by saying, "No, what you did was incredibly rude, and your shorts are stuck up your butt." Admittedly, I probably shouldn't have said that last part, but it just came out. Then she and her friends walked out of the exits pulling their shorts down in their back. Her friends never said anything, so it really was just the one being cheeky. Now, I can only hope she was just showing false bravado and thinks twice about doing that again. If that were me at that age, I would have felt embarrassed, even if I didn't admit it to my friends. Or she'll be bragging about it like she's tough stuff for the next week. I'm a petite person and she was smaller than me, so she does not have the physical presence to get away with being mouthy. Not that anyone should behave that way in the first place. I'm not one to get physical over such things, but she might one day encounter someone who absolutely is. Yeah, people who act like this, regardless of their age, are just super obnoxious. Like, what's so hard about waiting in line and not getting in other people's way? I know if this were me, I would have made a much bigger deal about this, but that's just me. Like, I'm not about to put up with that kind of disrespect, regardless of how old these people are, because that kind of behavior, in my opinion, absolutely deserves to be punished. My mom always guilt trips me into canceling my plans just so I can help her at the last second with something she's never told me about, leaving me in a spot where I feel incredibly frustrated. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 25 years old, and my mom expects me to be available for her at the drop of a dime, but I work full time and I go to graduate school full time and plan my week in advance. I recently told her I have plans all weekend, and I've got brunch reservations with my boyfriend on Sunday. If you'd like me to be available this weekend, please just tell me right now. And she said no, that I shouldn't be concerned about that and just try to focus on my own life. Well, sure enough, she just called me and told me that I'm very selfish for having reservations on Sunday when she is moving things into a storage unit, and that I should have known that she would want help, despite the fact that she never asked me and didn't tell me to be available. She guilted me to the point of canceling my reservation with my boyfriend just so I can be available for her, and now I have a pissy mom and a frustrated boyfriend to face. So I told her I cancel my plans, and she said, "Well, okay, I can't stop you from doing that. It would have meant more if you'd be willing to help me to begin with." But it's like, seriously, I asked days ago. I don't know how to navigate this. I feel like I can't have reliable connections with other people because she will constantly tell me to cancel, or she will guilt trip me for not being available for her if my time is being spent with other people. I'm super frustrated right now, and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, I would seriously never cancel another plan if my mom was doing that. Like, for me, this would be my last straw, and I would be like, "No, your lack of planning is not my emergency. I refuse to do this." Because guess what? That's exactly what's going on right now. She never plans out anything and expects you to be ready at the drop of a hat, and that's not fair for you. You can't live your life like that. You've got other responsibilities and other things you want to do. And the thing is, you even gave her a chance to be like, "Look, just plan out your week. Let me know what you want so I can schedule around that." But she refused to do that. Instead, she wants to guilt trip you and be like, "Oh, you're such an awful person. I can't believe you have plans when I need help with this or that." And it's like, dude, if you told me about this or that, I could plan for it. Why do I always have to like cancel my stuff just to appeal to you? So I know for me, if I was in this situation, I would never cancel anything ever again. I would literally be like, "No, unless you tell me a week in advance, I'm not helping you." If that makes me selfish, then so be it, because she's just trying to be super controlling and manipulative. And that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. An idiotic customer not only complains about the coffee we give them, but also doesn't pay as they walk out the door, making me wish that we charged them first before they got their coffee. Because trust me, that's a lesson you only have to learn once. Here's what happened. So I own a small game store cafe in a small town. I'm the only one within 45 miles, but there is still competition from farther stores as people out here are used to driving long distances already. I have lots of stories from the time I opened up, and I've learned a lot. And also, as a side note, while this story does involve coffee, my primary business is retail. This day was fairly quiet. We had a couple shoppers here and there, but otherwise not so busy. My husband was helping me this day, and while he does his best, I'm still more proficient at making coffees. This didn't matter here though. Generally, when people would come in and order a coffee, first first thing we would do is get it made and give it to them while they continue to shop. Cashing them out right away was something that I, at the time, concluded would create more hesitation in additional purchases. No one wants to stand at the counter and scan their card multiple times in a row. I've since learned that people actually don't mind that, and frequently when they're here for long hours, it's as though it's a competition to see how many times they can scan their cards for a couple dollars at a time in one visit. One regular's personal best was 9, and now we've begun running tabs. Well, a couple came in who were first-time visitors, but I wouldn't really call them customers. They each ordered coffees and then continued to browse. So my husband just jumped on making them while I tidied up around him. They received their drinks and sat down in our comfy chairs to chat, and then the man brings his back. He says that there's no flavor, which is really weird, considering I was sure I had just seen him put as much vanilla in there as I normally do. And I had tasted it before it was made the same way, and I thought it was fantastic, but I just went ahead and I added some more. So at this point, the drink had probably 10 pumps of vanilla in it. I blended it back and I gave it to him, and I was feeling particularly anxious about this screw up. We were a fairly new shop at the time, and we were still learning the ropes, trying to entice customers to come back or to visit in the first place. How could we have screwed up something so simple? Surely these people wouldn't be coming back and I had failed. They thanked me and continued to chat, shopping around a bit, enthused about how the coffee finally had enough flavor, and we got busy doing other things, helping someone else at the counter, cleaning up, etc., discussing how we'd made the coffee and how we could do it better. But then all of a sudden they left. No transaction had been rung up, and they never approached the counter to attempt to pay. No, they just simply left, over vanillaed frappes and all. Now, I blame this partially on myself, as I hadn't stopped them on the way out, and also partially on my husband, as he's the one that handled the offer, and partially on the 2 people who complained about the flavor of the coffee and then left without paying. And you know what? I've never even seen them again. But now I have a new lesson learned. New visitors will always pay the coffee up front. And also, some people truly have dead taste buds, because there was nothing wrong with the first coffee that we gave them. Oh man, yeah, this is one of those mistakes that you make only once and then never again. But seriously, this falls on the customer, not you or your husband at all. These people literally walked out without paying. Like, that's stealing. And that's something that anybody in their right mind would know they have to pay for the product they get. Even if you don't like it, dude, seriously. So good for you for learning your lesson, but also I would not be hard on yourself about this, because the customer here absolutely sounds like a train wreck. My entitled manager borrows my graduation gown and then tries to keep it, literally holding on to it for 6 months, making my life a nightmare trying to get back this expensive gown. Things got so frustrating that I literally had to lie to her just to get my stuff back, making me realize that I will never loan this out to anyone ever again. Here's what happened. So I graduated with a PhD from a UK university many years ago. The graduation gowns, hoods, and hats are expensive to buy, so most people pay about $40 to rent them for a morning or afternoon. This gives people time for the ceremony and to take photos. Now, a friend of mine owned a PhD gown, hood, and hat because he was planning on enrolling in a PhD, but he ended up just not pursuing it. So he very kindly gave everything to me. And you know what? I was over the moon. It meant I didn't have to pay the rental charge, and I could potentially use them in the future as a staff member to be part of other graduation ceremonies, which I would have done over the years. Well, I made the mistake of telling a manager of mine this story. Even though I worked at a different university by this point, my line manager was about to graduate from my old university with a PhD. She asked if she could borrow them, and even though I was completely uncomfortable with it, I said yes because I wanted to be in her good graces. Well, she ended up keeping the gown, the hood, and the hat for 6 months. Now, I must have asked her about 10 times to return them, and every time was a different excuse. I'm getting more professional photos done. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Well, I have family coming in from out of town, and I want them to see me in the robe. And the list goes on and on of her excuses. The final straw came when she said that she should keep them because she had worked so hard to get her PhD. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me? So did I. Then she said since I got them for free, that it wasn't a big deal. In the end, I had to make up a story about a friend who wanted to borrow them for an upcoming ceremony, and if they weren't in my hands by the end of the week, I would be coming to her house with my husband and my friend to pick them up on the weekend. And with that, she thankfully returned them in good condition. Now, if she had not been my manager, and a pretty bad and ineffectual one at that, I would have dealt with it differently. But my word, the entitlement of some people. It's like, no, actually, you're not entitled to my property because you think you deserve it, you jerk. And now no one gets to borrow them because I know I'll never have the money to replace them, or even begin to justify replacing them if something were to happen to them. Okay, there is nothing that drives me crazier than someone being like, oh, well, I did borrow this from you, but I guess I'm just gonna keep it. Or even worse, you get it back and it's in bad condition. Like, holy crap, that is like, oh my God, I trusted you and you destroyed my property. Are you kidding? Now I'm being left with the burden of replacing replacing it all because you were neglectful. Like seriously, dude, that's uncalled for. And this has happened more than once to me, and it really does kind of strike a chord, so I really feel for the original poster. But you know what? At least you got your stuff back in good condition, because the way she was acting was completely unacceptable. And while it does suck that you had to lie just to get it back, I seriously don't think you would have gotten it back any other way. My girlfriend and I have a roommate who's always dating men who have previously been in prison. And after watching several of these guys come and go in and out of our house, I seriously no longer want this roommate bringing anyone else over, simply because I don't feel safe with them around my girlfriend. Here's what's going on. Okay, so generally speaking, I'm a live and let live type of dude. I don't care who my roommate dates. It's none of my business, but when she brings them home, I do feel like it's my business. I don't want the roommate personally, and we are moving, but there is a lease, so that's not happening for at least 6 months. And I wouldn't even care so much if it weren't for the fact that she specifically is attracted to guys who have been to prison. Every single one of the men she's dated have had domestic violence charges, a bunch of baby mamas, been to prison, usually multiple times, and the list goes on and on. This new guy is the 4th guy that's been the case with, just since I've moved in, which was only about 4.5 months ago. Obviously, I can't tell her what to do, and she isn't breaking the lease rules or anything like that. I've already gotten a lock on my door and made sure everything is securely in my room, but it still makes me very uncomfortable, especially because I have a girlfriend who is sometimes here when I'm not with those men in the house. Listen, I'm all for second chances, but we're not talking about someone who went to prison for 10 years once and has been reformed. She specifically likes men who have regular run-ins with the law, and not for selling like the herb or something like that. I'm talking violent crimes. It doesn't seem to bother my girlfriend, but I feel like it's just waiting to explode. My girlfriend doesn't want to move out now and break the lease, which I completely understand, and that's up to the $14,000 we would have to swallow. I've tried to talk with a roommate about it before, but it always comes down to her saying it's none of your business who I date, and that's pretty much the only reaction that I get. She's 10 years younger than my girlfriend and I as well, so once I got the okay dad response. So seriously, am I overreacting? I will admit, other than moving all of my gaming systems to the room, I have not been that directly impacted so far. I just don't like having known active criminals in my house. One of them was even physically awful towards her, and she kept letting him back in the house. My girlfriend and I pay 2/3 of the rent, and I feel like we should have a say in who comes over when it's this bad. And I do want to mention that it's not a race or ethnicity thing, since some may be wondering. The current dude is whiter than me, and the rest were a mix of different ethnicities. I couldn't care less about that. My girlfriend is a person of color as well, so that's not an issue. What should I do? Okay, honestly, first off, I want to say I completely understand where you're coming from. This is a sketchy situation. Like, dude, she's bringing in former convicts, people who are constantly brushing shoulders with cops, dude. Like, what's going on right now? And the crimes you're describing sound really scary. Like, I would not want to deal with that at all, especially not around my spouse, for God's sakes. Like, are you kidding me right now? Now, the unfortunate part, and I think you know this, is that unfortunately you can't really do anything about this, because at the end of the day, your roommate does also live here. And that part really sucks, because obviously you want to live in a house that's safe and feels good. You don't want one with literal convicts walking around fresh out of prison. And sure, I totally agree with you. If they're reformed and they spend a long time in prison and they figure their life out, then sure. But it seems like these guys are not those types of people. And the fact that she's running through them so quickly is just so concerning. So while you can like express your discomfort with this and try to mitigate it by just staying away, unfortunately, I'm not sure there's anything you really can do. But regardless, hopefully it all works out, because this sounds like a miserable living situation. And I definitely would not want to be in your shoes. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.